I think that's an appropriate time to switch things over. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Lackadaisy Q&A. My name is Viger. I'm joined here by my wonderful co-host, NevaehEvol, and we have two incredibly special guests with us today to talk about all things Lackadaisy. The one and only Tracy Butler.
Hi, hello.
and Fable Siegel. I think I got the names right.
Mm-hmm.
And we're here to answer hopefully everybody's reasonable questions as far as anything related to Lackadaisy as a whole. So, starting off things though, I'd just like to ask our wonderful guests, how we all doing now that season 1 is finished recording its audio and everything, and we move into the next phase of that?
Good. We're constantly in a scramble to get a Herculean amount of work done, but it's fun and rewarding work, and we really enjoy with the crew we work with. The recording sessions were profoundly exhausting but amazing, and really invigorating in terms of just you write your scripts and then you get all of the voice actors together and you record, and suddenly it's so much more than just words on paper.
Yeah.
And, it's a whole performance. So that was
just relieved to not be herding cats anymore. Like the whole process was like, oh, so much hair pulling. Like we had to get SAG approval, and that took a while. And like we were trying to speed things along as quickly as possible with like friends of ours helping along with the process, but it still came in at like the very last second. And then on top of that, like trying to coordinate everybody's schedules so that we can get people recording like in person as much as possible at a studio, and finding like between like so many cast members, there's like 15-20 people, like how do you make sure that it's like where is the perfect amount of time where for this 1 5-day period everybody happens to have free time in their schedule and can make it to Los Angeles if they're not currently already living there. And oh my god, was that like that was a camel to thread through a needle right there.
Yeah.
Very
Meanwhile, there was actual cat herding happening because
I've been seeing the posts. Yeah. I've been seeing the posts.
Like
you keep finding more of them. Where are they coming from?
So the kittens were just like flying at Fable from all the
If anybody's heard of the cat distribution system, so for
I was just gonna say you were chosen.
Yeah. Oh, I was more than chosen. There was an error in the
won the lottery this
department.
year. I think there's some kind of lottery that happens and a name is drawn. It's like
pretty much.
It was me this time, the worst possible time. Like I'd already had like a bunch of neonate kittens, like 2-week-old kittens, if that old. Ended up in my my chicken coop because some mama cat had moved in there, and I was like, uh-oh. And she wasn't coming back, and it was getting cold, and there's predators in my area, so I was like, I need to move these guys out of here. Because that chicken coop is not my secure chicken coop. I had already moved my birds out of there because it wasn't very good.
Well, of course it's not secure. A cat got in there.
Yeah, exactly. Dumped a bunch of kittens and left. I was like, okay, so I guess she went out for cigarettes or something because she didn't show again. So I had to take these. I had to get in touch with a friend of mine who's involved in foster care.
Right.
And I had to take care of them for like a day or two. And I was, like I said, already in the middle of trying to organize all this stuff. So that was awkward timing. While I had just adopted my own kitten. So I had, ironically, I did have kitten things around, but not for kittens that young. Speaking of animals, if you hear a rooster crowing and birds chirping, I am surrounded by many a creature. So
yeah, all their homes got stolen by a cat. So
I live on Isla Nublar, so it's gonna just be that way. Apologies to the audience.
That's fair. That's fair. Adds ambiance.
So I in finding these kittens, I was like, okay, I got to figure out where these came from, see if I couldn't like capture the mother, because if there's an unspayed female in the area, she's just going to keep having kittens.
Right.
And you'll have a feral cat explosion very quickly. So I did manage to catch a female cat a couple weeks later, because like throughout this whole process of trying to organize everything, I was like, it's just not a good time. I need to catch her, but it's not a good time. I kept trying to set the trap, couldn't find her, couldn't get her. And then finally, my neighbor, who also like watches over the community cats in the area, he said to me, it's like, I think I saw her and she's pregnant. And I was like, oh crap.
Not again.
No. So I was like, there's no choice. I have to catch her now. Just as everybody was about to pile into my house and in the hotel next door so that we could go to the recording studio. And I was like, oh, this is like the worst timing. So I capture this cat, actually managed to catch her this time, and she is so pregnant that I wasn't sure when she was about to drop, and I'm trying to find someone to take her in, anybody. But the foster person that I used ended up getting dropped from their program because it turns out that the animal shelter closest to me is full of cops who think that cats have zip codes. So if you try to give them a cat from like literally 100 feet over the border from their general jurisdiction, they will just like, they will actually swarm you and be like, you don't belong here, blah, if we take in this cat, we're gonna kill it. This is a no-kill shelter, by the way, so it's truly insane.
Atlanta.
And in retaliation to the person who had told me to go there, they kick her off of their foster program in the middle of kitten season. So it's like, okay, so I'm shit out of luck trying to find somebody to take care of this cat.
Right.
And then as I drive back home, the my partner steps out and he's like, there's a kitten in the yard. And I'm like, what? No.
Oh my goodness.
And there is a 5-week-old kitten back there. I catch him the same day and I had to take in another cat. So now I have 3 cats. And I'm like, oh God, what am I going to do? And then I hear another kitten. There's another kitten in the far backyard. And I'm like, crap. So I set a trap out there to catch that one too. Probably the littermate of the one that I had just caught. And then that night, the mama cat gets out. By the way, my house is already full of people who are going to be fictional cats. And I'm herding them around. And this mama cat suddenly slips out one morning, like just happened to find a crack in the window screen and like slipped her way out because, you know, cats are just magic like that. Any crack and they can go.
Right.
Very true.
And I'm like panicking. I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? She comes to my porch that night, and I'm like, oh my goodness, Tibbs, because I was just calling her Tibbs for some reason at this, you know. Oh my goodness, Tibbs, oh thank God, come in, and I let her in, so she's eating, and I'm petting her. She's not pregnant anymore. I'm like, oh God.
I made room for food.
I now have an unknown number of cats on my property. Like,
Oh my
oh
goodness.
God, no. So it's taken me 4 weeks to get the other 2 kittens like socialized, so they no longer act like feral squirrels. Now they actually act like kittens, and they can be handled and, you know, petted, and they purr and they're very sweet. And I finally found Bagel's cat troubles. Good God!
Looking at that,
I finally found it's like the worst possible time to get in touch with shelters about this because they're all full up. If people are familiar with kitten season, this is when the cat distribution
Spring
system
I mean, it's all
is
year,
at
but
sprung.
spring is particularly bad. Yeah, it's
So I'm contacting everybody trying to find something to do about all this. You know, I'm getting them, you know, fixed. Sorry, not fixed. I didn't get them fixed yet because they were too young. But I got them like vaccinated, you know, cleaned up, you know, tested for things, everything. And, you know, once they were clear of everything, like I let them play with my cat and they had a really good time for like weeks. And I'm just like pulling my hair out trying to figure out what to do. Finally, Geeky Teas, which if anybody is familiar with Geeky Teas in Burbank, they are a kind of nerd shop where you can go get board game stuff and tea.
Oh my gosh,
and,
I do know that shop.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you can go play.
I was like, why
you
does
can
that
go
ring
play
a bell?
You could go play D&D there, that kind of thing. And I had contacted them early on, but they were in the middle of moving. But now after weeks, I was like contacted them. I was like, hey, you guys done moving? Because they couldn't, you know, take on cats while they were in the middle of moving. They're like, yes, we're done moving. And I was like, great. Can you take these cats now? I have done everything. I will cover the cost of spay and neuter, which, by the way, even with the discount program that I had access to, was still like $650 altogether for both kittens. I'm like, what the hell happened between the last time I got an animal fixed and now? What on earth? Well, so that's like rent right there. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
for real.
yeah.
Pretty much.
So like, what do I do? And I'd already asked the internet for money, but there's a point at which you keep asking for money for your cat issue where you're just not going to get much more because everybody who can contribute $10, $20 already has.
everybody's tapped out.
Yeah, everybody's
Right.
tapped out. They have other stuff they have to give to. So, you know, bless everyone who gave me some money and enabled me to get these cats some vet care. But I also had to like dig into my own pocketbook. And also, like, I'm feeding my own kitten, too. And so I'm going through all my kitten food super fast. And for the last few days I had these kittens, I had no wet food left because my cat can't eat chicken-based things, and he is getting into their food, and so I can't.
It's a free for all over there.
Yeah, it's just,
No
it's
one
just
gets the chicken
ridiculous.
Free for all.
Because it's like he will get the runs and he gets poopy toes and he likes to cuddle up with me at night. So he'll go get up, run to the bathroom, take a shit, run back into bed, and I instantly will smell like the foulest things ever. So it's like if I don't limit his intake of chicken, I'm gonna have a bad night. So
Oh, my
I
most
can-
heartfelt
yeah.
condolences to your olfactory
yeah.
senses.
yeah,
it's
I'd have
just
to
all
clean
over the
everything
place.
really quick. It's a good thing he's cute. Hi, Dee.
That's his
I
only
know,
saving
speaking
grace.
of-
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good thing he's cute because otherwise you just want to murder the little goblin. And I have to like pick him. I have to like lurch out of bed, grab him, and rinse his feet off in the sink. And meanwhile, he just like, whoa, whoa, and I'm like, shut up! You barely have any fur. There's nothing to complain about because he's a
Right.
Cornish Rex. So like they're kind of like sphinxes that way, just really short fur though. So
I
it's
hear
like, what are
that.
you even complaining about? But anyway, back to the kittens. Finally, I've gotten them taken in by Geeky Teas. So if anybody wants Peter Potato and Molly Molasses found literally over my garden wall, please go check out Geeky Teas and I think 900 Alameda now in Burbank. And they are there. They're up for adoption. And please go, if you can, take both of them. They are very bonded. They're good with other cats. I made sure that they were good to just be picked up. You can clip their claws easily enough. And they're very, very sweet.
Awesome.
Yeah, but now my mission is to get that mama cat and get those kittens out of the hole in my shed, where I'm pretty sure they are, and with
We
the
need
help of my neighbor.
to put a stop to her kitten making.
Yeah, we gotta
Yeah.
stop this. We gotta stop it
Yeah,
at the
for real.
source. We're gonna fish a camera down into her den, see if we can't count how many kittens are down there. Hopefully they weren't eaten. Because, like I said, there are predators in the area, and I know a skunk likes to make use of that same spot.
This is why you should
Yeah.
get your pets spayed and neutered. Folks.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So true.
Yeah.
Bob Barker's been
So-
saying it for years now.
Yeah, so the yeah, I'm pretty sure Tibbs is a stray who like probably either was dumped or escaped home and they never got her fixed, so she's just been living outdoors for a while. Because she was really good inside my home, so if I have to take in any cat, I'll take in her because she's an adult tabby. And, you know,
Right.
most people be like, oh, that's boring. But, I mean, she's a sweet cat. She gets along with my cat fine, and my neighbor also likes her, so she ends up being like an indoor-outdoor cat. If she's just going to be obnoxious like that, then, you know, I prefer to keep them indoors for, ecological reasons and their own safety. But at the very least, she has multiple people keeping an eye on her, because I understand community cats as a concept, but someone still has to take care of them. You can't just have...
Right.
cats running around go community cat and then nobody's taking care of them. It's still
Yeah.
they're still a domesticated animal. They depend on people. They need to get vaccinated and fixed and everything, because otherwise they become a problem for the area, and they will become a problem for other cats, including other people's pet cats, and they're coyote bait.
Pretty
I
much
live
now.
in an area where coyotes absolutely happen, and a bunch of feral cats around is coyote bait, and I have chickens, and I do not want a disaster to happen. So in the interest
Yeah.
of fewer dead animals, I have to do something about this.
Absolutely.
So that was the literal cats I was hurting. Meanwhile, at the same time as all that, I'm hurting all these humans and trying to organize all that. And we are shepherding people from my place down to the studio, which unfortunately is down in downtown, is in like Hollywood, which anybody
Oh, man.
who has driven around Los Angeles, whether they're visiting or live here, knows that Hollywood is one of the worst places to have to go to.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Might
the
as
only
well
reasons
just take the subway.
Yeah, one of the only reasons why people agreed to go to this location was I said, there's parking there. And they're like, oh, that's fine then.
That is so valid.
Yeah.
I've visited LA before, and the parking is abysmal sometimes. You're
Hollywood
like,
is
oh,
just
$20 to
awful.
park.
Yeah,
So
I
true.
like Los Angeles, but Hollywood is a nightmare. It's really only good to go to via public transportation, which thankfully, you know, the subway goes right there, so that's fine.
That's
easy
that's
enough.
good. That's good.
Yeah, and I know people make fun of public transportation here, but seriously, what does exist, bless it, and they are expanding it. Bless you, LA Department of Transportation.
More, please.
I've
More,
seen the
please.
traffic jams that LA is notorious for. The public transport would probably be a godsend to anybody.
Yeah,
It'll take you like
a
45
lot of the
minutes to
worst.
circle the same block.
Yeah,
Mhm.
most of the worst traffic, on my experience, is by the Hollywood Bowl, especially if anything is happening there, because some
So
asshole
true.
had the bright idea of building a convention center right next to a highway on ramp. Because that's really right next to like one of the densest parts in the city onto a highway, which is one of the only ways to get between the valley and Hollywood, where people actually work down there, and this is a major commuter thoroughfare. So super, just the most smart, greatest thing. Let's take a major tourist attraction and meld it with commuter central. Good idea. So, but you know, highways don't make sense anyway. So what can you say?
It's true.
So
It's
true.
true.
But yeah, so my partner, who's also one of our production assistants, was ferrying people back and forth, and some of our other crew members were very helpful, and they also ferried some people so that we didn't have to invest a lot in rideshare. Although of course people had rideshare available to them, to anybody who was traveling from out of state, or just had to stay in a hotel, because California is really big. So if you live outside of LA, it's going to be kind of a crappy commute. So I said to one of them, I was like, you could just stay in the hotel. It's fine. You don't have to drive this. It's like a 2-hour drive each way. Don't do that.
Oh my gosh.
And we gave them a stipend so that they didn't have to like spend their own money just to eat.
Right.
And on top of their, what they were making with us, because we're a small production, and bless you, SAG. They gave us they allowed us to pay a percentage of SAG's normal rate, because they actually have a system in place now for indie creators like us who want to have a SAG production, so that SAG performers can feel free to do stuff without fearing what it might do to their career, if there's like an issue with a production and then it has to get shut down, because there's there can be conflicts when you have like what's called a mixed production. Especially if something is as visible as we are. So we wanted to play by the book for their sakes and our sakes, and honestly, their contracts are extremely reasonable. I do not know what these studios are freaking on about, why they were just fighting this so much. Because I'm looking at the contract, and it's like, this is some clean language. Honestly, there's no problems here, and we're like tiny guys are going, yeah, this seems perfectly reasonable, no issues. It just basically says, hey, don't abuse your workers, pay them this minimum rate. If they go overtime, pay them like this. It's like,
don't be a
sure.
jerk.
Yeah, don't be a jerk. Pay them appropriately.
Simple.
And it can be a bit of a headache to get through, but that's mostly because it's a new process, especially for us who haven't been through it before. It's not that it's impossible, and I was able to find help for getting through the process, and they were very accommodating.
Yeah. So that was a breath of fresh air, as opposed to the not so fresh air you were dealing with at home with all the
That's
nice.
Any other time it'd be fine, but this was like the worst possible time for
I
all
showed
this
up to
happen.
voice direct and to clean cat litters, so
Yeah, thank you so much.
And
for
I'm
that.
not out of cat litter.
Yeah.
She would show up to my house like each
All out of
day and
bubble
just
gum.
start scooping cat litter. I'm like, bless you. I'm so exhausted. I was not sleeping well. Because my kitten, he decided that with everything going on, my face was a trampoline each night on top of that. And I'm like, Dirac, I love you, but why? And he had poopy toe, and I'm like, why? Why?
So many things for one little guy to manage.
And
What a
each
world
night,
to live in, that the contract is the nice part that you're getting to experience.
oh,
It
they
was-
got
it was-
lawyers.
Some kind of karmic retribution of some kind.
Pretty much.
I
The
know.
universe is balancing itself out.
Yeah.
You
I see
dodged the
this
very
as-
seedy
yeah.
contract with all the cat troubles.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now that you've balanced out now.
I say this as karmic payback for the fact that so my cat, as I mentioned, is a Cornish Rex, and that's a purebred cat. And normally I'm not about that. A cat is a cat. But my friend Kiki has a cattery, and she's being mentored by this Cornish Rex judge. This cat show judge, and they're just very interested in animal husbandry and care and that kind of thing. And I'm like, if I'm gonna get a purebred cat from anybody, it would be from one of my good friends, because I know that will be a great cat. And he's a great cat. He slots into my life perfectly, exactly what we needed in a cat, because I had really specific things in mind for what kind of pet.
Right.
And I have birds, as you can hear, so I have to be
No,
aware
I
of,
didn't
like-
have near hearing anything.
Yeah, so I have to be aware
Birds,
of
no.
like how the cat is going to interact with that, because I just don't want any stress. on either's part. Because anybody who has parrots knows also they're just like, let's go, buddy, let's go. They're not going to run away from the cat. They're going to go at them.
All right.
So, but yeah, he's been wonderful. And zero regrets in getting him. But I can't help but feel like, it could have been an opportunity for a cat in a shelter. And I denied them that. And so I told myself, well, if there's ever a cat in need, you have to help them now. And I guess God has a sense of humor, so
I found my place in the universe, and it is Lord of the Cats.
One pregnant cat out there heard me, and I was just like, "Oh, you bet."
So, housing, say less.
Yes. So that's Fable's cat fable for everyone's enjoyment there, and I know they've been sitting in the backstage for a while, so I'm going to get Spike out here now.
Oh my gosh, Spike!
Hello.
Hi.
I'm so sorry. I'm
well, I was just telling them.
No, you're recycling
about my cat nonsense. Yeah. Hi.
Hi. Oh God. Hi, everybody. Sorry.
This is our executive producer, Spike Trotman. She's the reason why this functions basically at all.
No, you're very kind. Thank you. I am honored to be a part of this, honestly. It's been a hell of a ride and very exciting, and I'm just glad to be here.
Yeah, I was just telling them about my cat situation, but also
I heard.
Organizing SAG, and it was basically you and me playing tag with people and going like, over everything.
Well, not over. Our paperwork, the thing that will always stick in my mind when I'm like recalling this years from now is our union paperwork came through on May Day of all days, which I was like incredibly thrilled about. I'm like, poignant.
Yeah, I like it.
But no, joke's on me. That shit never actually ends. So we have more to do.
Yeah, it's endless.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'tis the nature of the business, cats and all. When you signed up to make the cat show, of course this would freaking happen at some point.
All we need is the feral cat colony to unionize, and we'll be good.
Yeah. Hey, like I have like an established list of things that I have to do for them at least, so it's less a scramble for me. It's like, oh, thank God, a to do. Thank you. Bless you. You still got to get fixed, though.
Still got to do the little snips.
I'll sign whatever. Just stop having babies.
No.
Please stop.
Yeah.
No more.
All right. We've got our grievances and everything that we've been dealing with aired out and everything. So let's get into the questions proper, shall we? Because I know everybody's got their own, but we've got a few that we need to address it first. True. So I think the most obvious one that we want to start with for anyone who kind of stumbled and bumbled their way into the stream and have absolutely no idea what Fable's on about as far as cats are concerned. Tracy, do you mind telling us exactly what is Lacadaisy from the beginning to where we are right now?
Sure. So
the whole
Lacadaisy
history behind it.
Started out as a webcomic. I was working in the game industry. I started out as a very hands-on artist, and I got kind of moved into a lead role as a art lead, and I was doing a lot more of the task delegating and writing documentation and interviewing people and hiring people and training people, and I was not happy about that, and I needed a hands-on creative outlet, so I started doing this comic late at night in the wee hours of the morning to kind of fill that need. And that was Lackadaisy, and it was just kind of all of the things I was interested in, like history, cats,
every fixation all at once in one comic.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna devote that much time and energy to something, it might as well be stuff you love. So
very true.
Yeah, so make your projects as self-indulgent as possible, and you'll stay interested in them. So yeah, that's what I started doing, and I did that for years that way, and eventually Patreon came along, and I was like, hey, maybe I can do this comic more on a full-time basis. So I took that leap and started doing it that way, and then ultimately reached out to Fable at one point because I had kind of always envisioned it as animation, but comics is the way you can really like approach something as a solo artist. I mean, you can do animation solo, but you can, you're generally going to be more doing shorter things.
Yeah, something like Lackadaisy was not a one person kind of.
Yeah, I had this much more,
absolutely.
Yeah, this much broader story with lots of characters and things, and that I wanted to tell. And it was like, how do I do that visually by myself. And I mean, comics, there's just no gateway to entry to that. And that's the beautiful thing
Absolutely.
about comics. So it's like you just start telling your story that way.
Yeah, you've already got the storyboard built,
Right.
so take this and make it move.
Yeah.
I've done half the work for you, so.
I mean, yeah, a little bit. It's like that. Yeah, it's kind of yeah. There's a lot of parallels to storyboarding. It's not quite timed the same way, but yeah. It's like you're, you know, what I was seeing in my head was playing out like a Don Bluth movie, I guess, and I was just drawing it on paper, and so Fable like said something on Twitter at one point. It was like looking for animation work. They had to replace a tablet or fix a tablet.
And my graphics card, and that was thousands.
Oh, is your graphics card?
We all know that.
I was in between jobs, so I was like, oh god, my computer. I need this is the thing that allows me to eat.
And we had crossed paths at like at different conventions before and things. So
we came
I knew
from the
Fable
same primordially
we crawled out of the DeviantArt trash bin.
Yeah.
That is such an apt
my own heart.
comparison.
So I reached out to Fable when they said that. I was like, hey, you maybe want to like put together a pitch for this thing, and just I don't know, maybe it'll just be for fun, and worst case I'll just have something to show to my patrons. That'll be a neat thing. And Fable's like, yes, I very much do want to do that, and we're gonna make animation one way or another. So I was like, okay, let's
I was
do
like,
it.
no, this is getting made either way. Like I will make this happen, because I've been a huge fan of Tracy's work since the very first thing, the very first comic where Rocky's waxing on and on about like some dead guy while Freckle is like burying him. And so the opening of the pilot is basically kind of an ode to that very first comic, essentially. Oh, who dat? A friend.
I'm so sorry. That is my dog. My setup is in my garage, and he just heard the mailman drive by.
Classic dog move right there.
Yeah. He's being a silly man.
Oh, what a silly man.
So then we got together with Ashley Green, also known as Kilo Monster on the internet, and
another very skilled comic artist in her own right. She does Monsters Garden.
Yeah, and we put together a pitch, and then Fable took the pitch around to some studio folks that Fable had worked with before, and some fairly big names in animation production, and they said that this is really cool and wonderful, and no studio is ever going to make this because it's weird.
The networks are not going to pick this up because it's not a sitcom
it's not a known property.
It's not a known property. It's not a Family Guy style sitcom that can run endlessly.
It's not for children. Again.
And you guys aren't like a huge name outside of your circles. So
none of us are
attractant for networks, basically.
I'm sorry, we're looking for someone with a little more experience.
None of us are nepo babies, sadly.
Yeah.
So we had to go.
And this is coming from people who are really, really nice about it too. They're like they're basically like, we don't know who we would sell this to, because all the usual people looking for this would not buy it because it's not what they bought already. Yeah. So it's really funny when they say, we want something new. And it's like, no, they don't.
Yeah, these are the realities of working in an industry that's as, what's a good way to put it, as innovation averse as Hollywood. There's like so much money involved with every production.
They're far less interested in making art
One of the
than
things
they are
I always think about is there was a movie a while back. The Rock was in it. Maybe you heard about it. It was called Black Adam. And it ended up making something like $600 million. And it was considered a failure because so much money is going into the production side that it needs to make so much more than that to be considered profitable or even
and to be clear, a lot of that money is not going into the artist's hands.
Oh no.
Like that's the thing, is that a lot of the money if anybody recalls seeing the pie chart that like SAG and WGA were putting out, showing like the expenses spent on like writers and performers relative to like everything else, it is such like a tiny fraction of the pie chart that it didn't even encompass 1 pixel.
Right.
So you can see it. You had to like point a line at it because it's like amongst the budget and the enormous like amounts of the money
catering.
Amongst the catering is making even less. But the
costs of Hollywood productions are wild, arguably out of control, and so they go for sure things. They go for iterations on things that Boomer age and Gen X age people will remember from their childhoods to basically stack the deck and hedge their bets. And when you come to them with something like Lackadaisy, honestly, no matter
they're like, they don't know this audience,
love it, they make a very sort of cold-hearted, steely-eyed, it's just about the numbers kind of
Right,
decision,
right.
and we are just too risky no matter how much they like it.
This actually kind of goes into another question that I had later on, but we can just tackle it right now, was discussing Lackadaisy's place in indie animation, how it's blown up in popularity, whereas major animation studios are, as you say, struggling to impress people despite all the money that's being thrown at them.
Oh, yeah.
So continuing on with what you were saying there, though.
Yeah, Lackadaisy is something that it's viewer supported, and it's as grassroots and indie as a animation production that's a multi-person production can really get. We're incredibly grateful to the people that believe in us and support us in that way, because quite literally we don't get to exist without our audience. We have cut out the middle person. We have a lot of respect for a lot of our colleagues who work in Hollywood animation.
Oh, absolutely.
And
that was me for a long while.
Primarily, you know exactly what they've gone through. You know what they have to deal with. We have people who spend the better part of their careers trying to get their shows made, and they follow the rules and they work their way up in the ranks and they do their pitches. And to be perfectly frank, they're not another Scooby-Doo show. They're not another Nuclear Family in the suburbs
percentage
show.
of people who actually get to make something is so minuscule that it feels like you're just throwing your ideas into a black hole.
So
and it's not great when you see like yet another Brickleberry get made and you're like, okay, but why? And it's like, because that guy has connections you don't. It's not a meritocracy. I mean, we all know this. It's not a meritocracy. But just because something's really, really good does not mean that it's going to get money or attention or support. And the saddest thing is that if something is really, really good and it does get a lot of attention and then it gets picked up by a network, that one network can actually then screw the production over.
Yeah,
and
they
might be taking it on as just a way to kick it out of someone else's hands.
Yeah.
But the creative executive
the number of
disappears and gets fired, and then the production stalls and never goes anywhere.
The number of projects that get picked up for development and then sit there in development hell for years while the company just sits on them, and then the company reneges on it and is like, we're going to pass. That's right. Throws the whole thing in the trash.
Nimona,
and that thing never sees the light of day.
Acme.
Nimona is like a freak of just like
last minute
in a good way, in that it's like it got saved from that machine that does that. But so many things you've never heard of have been thrown away and had such promise, and it's really such a shame.
The creators have promised the world, and they sign over their IP, and production gets incredibly far along. I mentioned Mouse Guard, for example. That's another. If you have not read that comic, everyone, I strongly recommend it. They got incredibly far along in the production, and one of the saddest videos I've ever seen was years ago on Twitter, where someone decided to do a walkthrough of the Mouse Guard production offices the day they heard that they don't get their cartoon anymore. And the walls were covered with concept art, and all the workstations had maquettes at them, and everything was clearly well underway, like the cartoon was being made. And then someone who lives their life in an office in a three-piece suit and probably doesn't even like cartoons that much picked up the phone and said no. And it's just gone. It's all over.
One of the main drivers of just how many projects are getting canned right now is the result of studio mergers.
Oh yes.
So you have like network and studio mergers, and what often happens is that whoever the bigger company is, like, taking on the projects of the smaller company, what they usually do, like, they don't like take on the projects and just make them made. They usually cancel them. Like, they usually cancel basically all of them. That's what happened to Blue Sky. If you're like, hey, what happened to Blue Sky? Like, they used to make like all these, these movies and stuff. And say what you want about Ice Age, they put out some at least visually really appealing movies for a while. Then they got bought by Disney, and Disney canned everything. Like, everything Blue Sky was working on, just gone.
And a lot of the reasoning behind what gets to live and die when these mergers go through is basically like tea leaves. It's just basically someone's vibes. They're like, oh, no. That studio over there that we already own, they do the stories about talking animals, so we're going to cancel your talking animal movie. Yeah. And that could be purely there does the stuff for the 12 to 19-year-olds, so you don't get to do your 12 to 19-year-old audience movie. And it could also just be it's just
company politics. It's like, oh, well, these two executives don't get along, so when this guy got fired and all his projects that he was working on are gone, and like there is a revolving door for creative executives, where I know usually creative executives get, shat on, sometimes rightly, amongst animation folks for decisions made. But they are also in their own like weird situation where the job has like so little security. They come in, they try to bring in projects, and then they get canned, and whatever they were working on gets canceled because the next guy coming in wants the
Clean slate.
Yeah, he wants a clean slate. He wants the budget. He wants to get the attention for whatever. And if he's just like making this other thing go forward that some other person has their name attached to and all the credit, well, that's not credit going to them. So you got to get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's
Like
a
they
very
don't want to take a
poisonous
chance
system.
anymore. They just don't want to take a chance.
Very true.
It's like what makes me look good, basically, is kind of the priority. Meanwhile, like this isn't serving audiences well. This is not serving creators well. It's like this weird shell game being played between a bunch of people who just don't really have much interest in making things.
Their top
Right.
priority,
Yeah.
priority, as it is and always has been, it's just kind of egregiously obvious right now, is shareholder wealth.
Yeah, shareholders,
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's priority.
They aren't interested in making art. They aren't interested in satisfying audiences. They are interested in keeping their
Their
shareholders.
ideal would be to make nothing whatsoever, and
Yeah.
you guys just keep giving them money for absolutely nothing. That's what they would love.
It's like you see these shows nowadays. It's like you can see the money, you can see the budget, but you don't see the soul, the heart, the passion behind it.
So
It's
There's
just
nothing that like steps outside of what your expectations are because also like their idea of the audience is this nebulous like 18 to 34 like males and females, the United States, like middle America or whatever. And it's like if you get any random two people from with that category, they could have widely different interests. So they're not catering to people with certain interests. They're catering to people as a just how do we maximize the number of people that would watch this as much
looking
as
at it as a
possible,
pie
and
chart, not people.
yeah,
Exactly.
to
So
justify
true.
that outrageous budget where most of it is going into their pockets and not into the pockets of artists. And it's just it's terrible.
Yeah.
So you have these wildly inflated budgets, which means that there are not more projects getting made that are smaller scale or even mid scale. Like how many more mid-sized movies have you seen coming out recently?
I don't even go to the movies anymore.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just
exactly.
24
Because
is
it's
making
it's
some
just-
pretty good stuff.
It's
I'm
just
looking
the
forward.
Marvel chamber now.
I'm looking
yeah,
forward
Marvel
to
pretty much,
chamber.
pretty
Yeah.
much. I think I'm only waiting for the Sonic 3 movie just because I'm a fan of Sonic, and that's it. I'm like, it's like, what else am I interested in? There's literally nothing because you got Marvel movie 13 over here that I don't know anything about because I haven't watched the previous 9. So I'm going to be
Wait,
completely
so
lost
true.
on that.
When Everything Everywhere All at Once came out, it was almost like a miracle. Like it,
Yeah.
like everybody that like blew up largely thanks to word of mouth. It was not a very expensive movie. The VFX that were involved in it were actually like very, very humble and had just all these great actors. They had a really great original concept that had something to say. You
Right.
know, it wasn't just trying to be like, popcorn filler or the concept of popcorn. Like some movies feel like you're smelling the popcorn, you're not even eating it anymore.
Yeah. I mean,
'Cause
you
I
look
like
at
a popcorn movie, but geez.
Yeah, you look at like Godzilla -1, and that was like on a budget sort of movie, but it blew everyone's expectations just because you felt it.
Yeah,
And it's just like,
the bigger
we
the
get more-
budget, the bigger the budget, the fewer chances that they want to make to not make as much money as possible. But also, I'm of the opinion that a lot of these guys who are at the top of the heap just don't have a good idea of what people want in general. Like they live in a whole other world where it's like, hey, I gotta get my third yacht. That's not the vast majority of people. So
Everyone's
Yeah, one
also
of the
like,
things-
what
how
kind
can I
of
afford
stories are they
eggs?
can afford?
One of the things that's worth remembering when it comes to pretty much every industry, because kind of I have a leg in animation and I have a leg in comics now, and this is something I've seen reflected on both sides, so I imagine it holds true everywhere, is everything is hit driven. Like literally everything. And when an industry is hit driven, which is unavoidable, there tends to sometimes be this tendency towards a lack of imagination because you can only afford so many projects that do or you can only afford so many projects that just outright fail. And once again, when the costs are sky high, that window for success narrows. It gets more selective. And as a result, back in maybe 20, 30 years ago, they could put out 2-3 duds a year, and now maybe
Mhm.
it's that one dud a year. And when you put out the dud, you feel consequences for it. Maybe you lose your job, maybe you don't get that promotion, maybe every other project you bring to the table, people will just be like, oh, aren't you the guy who put out the dud 2 years ago? And your prospects are cut off at the knees.
Mhm.
So people, even again, this is taking it back to the people in animation, like air quotes, mainstream animation, we really respect and we consider colleagues. They could never stick their neck out for Lackadaisy because that could be the end of them at that studio, at that production company. Because what if Lackadaisy only makes $100 million this year
Oh,
instead of the
no.
$500 million they need it to make to pay for someone's third yacht, like Fable was saying.
But also, like, they have to convince the guy upstairs, like, even if they really like it, they have to convince the guy upstairs to listen to them. And
there's always somebody else higher that you have to appease in
exactly
the system.
And if it's not The Simpsons again, if it's not like a zombie cartoon that's got a cast that people remember from their childhood in the 70s, they consider it riskier, no matter how much it may be personally appealing.
But
Sequel,
also, it's
reboot, remaster.
Some of it is even just like what these guys are familiar with from their background, and they're gonna like key in on stuff that it's like, well, I know that they're not gonna be as cognizant of what like other demographics like. This is one reason why, you know, after running through like a bunch of people, you know, I was like, I'm positive that we could get money via Kickstarter to get at least a pilot made. And knowing Spike's background, I was like, well, if we get in touch with Spike Trotman, who runs Iron Circus, and the whole business model is run a crowdfunding campaign to pay for the production of a thing and then continue to sell the thing so that you can market stuff towards niche audiences who are willing to pay for the thing. Because you know that there's an audience out there. Like, they're the ones who've been supporting Tracy this whole time, after all.
Yeah.
And they've been begging for so many things that she can't expand upon because she's just one person. So basically, it's like we need the money to hire like a whole crew of people so that they can do more stuff. And reaching out to Spike, it's like she already had a proven business model and saying, hey, would you be interested in expanding this? Because I'd seen her like for years and years discussing about, you know, talking about how in Japan they have a model where it's like, hey, you have a manga, you get an anime made, and then it sells more manga, which justifies more anime getting made, and there's like so much merch involved.
It's like an infinite money glitch.
Yeah, it's a merch engine.
So true.
Yeah. It's a merch engine, and like you can start out with like really humble small projects and comics and just use that to see, you know, who's interested in this.
Yeah.
And like the more popular it is, it will start to, you know, generate some momentum.
Iron Circus's general, like our slogan, our mission statement is strange and amazing, which is something I got off a Circus banner like years and years ago. And we focus on the kind of stuff that people don't see every day, the more unusual comics, the weirder comics. And so to be perfectly honest, Lackadaisy like slots in very easily. It's something for which there is demand out there. There is an entire community that's like a New Yorker cartoon of a man crawling through a desert, gasping for water, who simply isn't being served for multiple reasons. One reason is, well, there's not some massive blockbuster cartoon out there already that's exactly like this. Therefore, we don't want to take a risk on it. Well, it's not something people remember from their childhood, so we don't want to take a risk on it. And something like Lackadaisy and a creator like Tracy do sort of call for that higher level of almost like prestige animation. It's like I enjoy South Park, but a South Park level animation for Lackadaisy wouldn't really serve
have
the
the same
storyline.
impact.
It wouldn't have the impact we want it to have. And I was very used to sort of finding funding and finding audiences for people, rather for projects that have that kind of strange and amazing aspect to them, aura to them. And
that is such a good motto to have.
Yeah, it's what we go for, because you're not gonna make it if your game plan is, oh, I'll just do exactly what these much larger, better funded studios do.
Yeah. Why be original when you can copy?
Yeah, exactly.
There's no point in being like the next Marvel, basically.
Yeah.
You're-
that spot is taken.
So the short version of that was, rather than trying to court the very broken system that is Hollywood right now, we just said, all right, we'll just make it ourselves. That was the challenge put before us. And so we kickstarted the pilot in 2020, right as the pandemic lockdown kicked off. That was interesting.
Perfect timing.
Project
hey, we
freaking
were
cursed. There's so many instances of that kind of thing happening.
You know, it worked out because we were a remote studio anyway. I think all of us artists who otherwise weren't going to be working outside of the home anyway, we found some refuge in having that virtual studio space that we could gather in and just do work and hang out together. And it was nice. I enjoyed that a lot. There were certainly a lot of stressors that came about as a result of this pandemic situation and such, but
imagine.
and some complications because it meant a lot of people were unreliably available. Their school schedules
through no fault of their
flipped
own
on their heads.
Like,
they'd have family members who were sick, they'd get sick, and so it was very tricky to try to navigate a production schedule around that. But
it's like it forced us to take it's like I already wanted to approach all this from a very humanistic point of view. As somebody who's like worked in the system myself, I'm very aware of like how you get abused, and a lot of in building everything was like unteaching myself some of these things that had been normalized in my head.
Right.
But also, it's like with the pandemic going on, you were just forced to take a more humanistic approach, where it's like you need to be patient because it's like there is no, well, just get over it when it comes to COVID. There just isn't. Or somebody has like a death in the family, of which there were many, and just like the chaotic upheaval that was happening in people's schools, folks having to move, just everything going on. And so you have to build a studio that can work with people rather than like saying no this way, no this way. And so flexibility became like just what we had to deal with, and I think it's actually served us for the better. It was like training in a sense, and now I feel like, well, I mean, we made a pilot while dealing with all that, so everything else feels like easy compared to
this recording session is going to go swimmingly then.
Oh yeah, so long as not a shower of cats literally drop in my head, it should be fine.
Literal catastrophe. Just all of a
oh my
sudden.
god.
Yeah. So anyway, we came out with the pilot. It did better than we expected it to.
Yeah.
And we got
hit like 1 million in almost a day.
Yeah,
we got
something like that.
we got some interest coming in suddenly from these Hollywood people who were not at all interested in talking to us before.
It's like, well, now that you have money,
well, now that
now
you
I'm
have,
willing to listen.
well, no, more like now, like you have an audience, we know it's marketable.
Attention.
But
They have the money.
But we were getting the same sort of
Run around
sort of thing, where it's like, okay, so now you've got to put together a pitch and sell us on it. It's like the pilot is the pitch.
The pitch is right there.
Yeah, and then it'll allow us to get the money to make a pilot. It's like, but we made the pilot, and then we could hire a studio but we have the studio.
We became all too aware that what was going to happen was if we signed with somebody, we were going to be put into that very development hell sort of situation that we knew many other projects had ended up in. We would be sat on for 2 years, and ultimately the odds were very high that the cartoon would never even see the light of day because some executive would swap places with someone else, some studio merger would happen, someone would just look at the numbers and go, throw it out.
Yeah.
And then after all that work, getting our scripts approved, doing all of that, and trying to appease this studio or streamer, whoever it was, we would just be out on our asses again. And it's like,
and you totally
how do we make our cartoon? How do we do that? And that is
we just want to make the cats do the thing. Come on, how hard
is on top of that, the entire time your audience is screaming for you, going like, "Where is it? Where is it? Where is it?" And you legally can't say anything. So if you guys have ever heard about cartoon shows on YouTube that made it big, and then it turned out they got picked up by somebody, and you haven't heard anything from them for years, it's probably not the creator's fault.
Right. They can't say it. They can't tell you where they're at.
They can't tell you what's happening.
They may not even know themselves where they're at. They may be just waiting for the network to drop the bomb on their head and be like, okay, we're done with you. Goodbye. Maybe if you're lucky, you have buyback rights, so you can get your IP back and do something with it. Or maybe it just ends up in the trash and you can never even talk about it again.
Have you signed the NDA on the way out the
all
door?
of that pre-production art, all the concept art, character design, scripts, all of that gone.
And
we own it. We're not going to use it.
Yeah. And it'll never see the light of day. All of that artwork that people put passion and love into, it's in a trash bin and behind the studios. Like,
it's definitely treasure what they gave you in the first place. Don't hold it against them.
It's kind of wild because when Lackadaisy dropped and it premiered and it did its thing after those years of production, the emails like Tracy was talking about that we got, they were the kind of emails that I imagine a lot of people spend their entire lives fantasizing getting, like emails from people you have heard of.
We were very excited. We were like, oh my God, I just got an email from X like
Yeah.
corporation.
Meanwhile, me
And
seeing
then,
all
like,
these emails coming in, I'm like, we need
in
a lawyer.
reality-
We need a
reality-
lawyer right now.
Yeah.
So real.
Well, as soon
Absolutely.
as we started talking to anybody, reality started setting in. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is
Yeah,
Like,
we-
oh, they
we
just
thought
wanna,
we were the
like, make
prettiest
sure they
girl
lay
at
claim
dance,
to it.
and then we
Yeah.
would get on the phone calls, and like Fable was saying, a lot of the caveats and requirements to work with these people, it kind of simultaneously acknowledged all the work we'd done on our own, but also dismissed it. So
Yeah.
it's like, no, we're ready to go now, though. You've
It's like they
seen
couldn't-
everything we've done.
They felt kind of patronizing.
Yeah.
you know?
Well, it's like they knew the people we were talking to were at the level in the company where they knew the right thing would be to just push it into production, but they couldn't bypass the way the system is set up. And so all they could do is say, well, we just have to pitch it again.
Yeah.
And they were just sending us back to the line,
the back of the
beginning of the
line.
line again.
Sometimes-
And it's like,
this was the most interesting thing that happened. I observed was sometimes they broke script and they admitted, I don't know why you need this actually.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
like, I don't know why you're doing
Uh,
this, why you would do this to yourself.
With
You should
us,
just,
yeah.
like, you have to.
They just breached surface and grabbed air and be like,
Literally,
wait a minute.
There were literally people
Hold right back down again.
in the Hollywood system that said this to us, who work there, and it is their job to find things to make. And so we were like, maybe what we should do then is not do this to ourselves, and we should find a way to make this ourselves without dooming it to the same, fate that so many other.
The system is broken, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
only proven more and more obvious to folks not already on the inside
Yeah.
as the years go on. It's like what you guys are currently seeing on the outside, we have known about for years. My career has been extremely rocky. Not to be quaint with the main character's name, but it's been extremely rocky, not through my own doing, but because with all these network mergers and streaming platforms popping up and projects starting and then stopping, and there's no second season for anything, and first season gets broken up into 2-3 seasons, it makes your job as an artist in the field extremely precarious. And so many times I'd have a job that at longest would last maybe 6 months at longest. So many jobs, and they started getting shorter and shorter as like budgets went down and the time for production went down. It would go down from to 4 months, 3 months, a few weeks. And so you're constantly scrambling for work. You're constantly applying to jobs. The moment you have a job, you're applying to another job. You're exhausted. You don't have time to update your portfolio. You've done all this work for all of these people, but you still have to prove yourself every single freaking time to the next guy, because the hiring people are not allowed just to hire people. They got to go through this whole ass process.
Yeah.
And the only way that you get jobs is the job boards that you see online were just black holes to me. And well before anybody knew about AI, though they had robots sorting those in the first place. So, if you didn't have the magic keyword on your resume, you were going to get thrown into into the
Didn't
trash
have the correct
anyway.
boxes checked.
Yeah, you didn't have
The algorithm would just
the
kick you out.
specific way of spelling something would get you not a job. So you need to find about the jobs through people you know. And with a lot of the jobs that I had actually been working from home quite a bit. And if you're not physically in the office and people can't see your face, the only people who are going to remember you are the director and the line producer, if that, and they're juggling so many people, that good freaking luck, you better make a good impression. And then on top of that, it's Pride Month. And so if you're somebody who's visibly off, let's say, like myself, that doesn't help your chances. So
I felt that one, dog.
yeah.
I get it entirely.
My fellow MB over
industry.
here. Oh,
Yeah,
God.
let's go.
It's what's that? You can't fit in the closet. Well, let's just, we don't have a closet here anyway. Get out.
You mean you're actually going to pay attention if I'm using the correct pronouns and stuff for you? What do you
I remember
mean?
one job I had, it was one of the few companies I was ever at that actually had a non-gendered bathroom. But it was also the company I was at where right behind me they had a podcast recording, and one of the guys on the podcast, I don't think he worked there. He was just a guest maybe, but he started just screaming about his parent who had come out as trans and how they were so abusive growing up and blah blah blah, and now they're doing this and I can't believe they would do this to me. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe that was kind of why they were shitty growing up. Maybe this is better for them, and They're not
Do
raising
this
you anymore,
to
man.
me.
Just let them do their thing. It's fine.
Let
It's
them
not gonna
live.
hurt you.
What
It's not
the
gonna
heck?
hurt you. Just let them do their thing. And they were I just hearing like some radically transphobic stuff just being screamed
Yeah.
at directly behind my
man.
head. Like
Ugh.
all that day, and I'm like, let's pretend this isn't happening. Crank up the noise on your headphones. Keep watching Pepper Ann. Yeah.
That's so hard.
Yeah.
Oh, it's such a bad industry. No wonder there is this rise in indie animation, because you have all these
So
people with
true.
all these wonderful ideas, and some of them
And
can
no
be
outlet.
some of them
Yeah.
are just so simple.
It's
But nobody
it's a
wants to touch
pattern.
them.
Yeah, it's a pattern in animation history, film history in general too. If you look back at periods of time, like when UPA arose, when Bakshi arose, when Bluth arose, it was always like some kind of frustration with the system. People are not able to get projects done. You have folks who are on the outside for whatever reason, often through no fault of their own. A lot of them in comics.
Yeah.
Who end up going like, fuck it, I'll just make it myself. And it's not always like the prettiest picture, but it always tends to like open the door for more people to, to go, well, maybe I can do that, and stop seeing like our medium as something that is like owned by Disney. It's like, you're not more valid as an animator if you didn't work for Disney, or you don't have your project done through Disney. Disney does not own cartoons.
You don't need justification
so
just
true.
because you have a certain name attached to your product. You just need to have it. People want it, and you're willing to give it to them, and then
have
the
the money
audience
to
will
pay people.
respond.
It's like, can you make it yourself? If not, do you have some kind of funding to pay other people to help you
The
out?
money is
Do you
the
have an
big
audience?
issue. Like animation, even indie animation is hella expensive, cripplingly expensive, heart-stoppingly
It's a lot.
expensive.
We've given a lot of
Oh, yeah.
advice to people who are just coming up. They want to make their own thing, and one of the things I say is like, work within your means. Like, don't aim for what we're doing. The only reason we can do this is because of the vast network of like people that we've built up over the years, that we've talked to, the experience that we have, and how to acquire funding, and how to find folks to help out with all this and get advice from. Because like I'm 36 now. I'm gonna be 37 this year. I'm just like, I do not expect a 22-year-old straight out of college to do this. 22-year-old me would not have been able to do this at all. It would have been a very different thing.
No, I have seen the occasional sort of. Here's the thing. If you are into animation and you love it, and you are like a fresh college graduate, fresh high school graduate, whatever, by all means, get that YouTube channel and put your animations
absolutely.
online. That everyone starts from somewhere, and that is a great starting point. But if you are like 22, 23, and you have, lack of a better term, if you have no juice, if you have no audience, if you don't have
you have to start
50,000
somewhere, and
people following you on social media,
it's going to take some time to build that. And I know it's difficult, especially now, because there's just so much noise online.
Yeah.
But but you can do it. You just take the time to build stuff. Work with other people on their projects too. That's how you get connections.
Yeah, you're going to have a bad time if you can't figure out financing, and you decide that you are going to skip several steps, several rungs, and try to basically put out a season 1 of something that is kind of on the level of complexity that Lackadaisy is. I think the best move right now for anyone else is just to start small, start with shorts, something that's 10 seconds long that you can frankly do by yourself or with an itsy bitsy team, and see if there's any interest, gauge if the audience that exists, because in my opinion, pretty much everything has an audience, but the trick is finding the audience that exists that's large enough to support something that fits your ambitions.
And how to get your audience to find you is another thing. But Lackadaisy itself didn't start off like doing gangbusters. Like Tracy started off just doing little short comic experiments. If you want to talk about how you kicked off your the project, Tracy, and got into it.
It was just a little obscure webcomic for a long time. And it gradually built
nominated webcomic.
Gradually
not initially.
But yeah, it very gradually built an audience. It was 10 years before I was able to go, kind of full time on it, and 10 years before it made any money at all for me. Like I had books in print and stuff like that, but it's like you don't really, if you've only got circulation of a very a few conventions here and there and stuff. Like it's a struggle to just earn enough money back to pay for the printing process. So,
Right.
so it took a long time. And it was only then that we finally asked for Kickstarter funds, and then people came out of the woodwork. We're like, yeah, I haven't had any opportunity to throw money at this, so here's a few bucks. And they did that, and they did it in large enough numbers that we were able to produce that pilot. And then we leveraged that interest that came from the pilot, because suddenly the project was way more visible. I think probably in the years prior, all of the people who had read the comic were outnumbered vastly by the number of people who saw the pilot in the first day.
Right.
We had to tell the webmaster, it's like you need to reinforce the
the
pilot
website
came out.
crashed.
Like Jay, you need to make sure it won't die.
Rolled over and died the day the
Oh,
pilot
no.
came out, because it just couldn't handle the traffic, because it never
Yeah.
had traffic.
You guys
like that.
Markipliered the webcomic site.
Yeah.
You're using that as a verb now?
Oops.
Oh man.
But yeah, so we leveraged that sudden new audience into raising funds for the season by running a backer kit on the heels of the pilot, going like, we'll make more of this if you want, and people seem to want that. So now here we are making season 1 using those. So yeah,
and it's amazing just to see this kind of growth in this sort of industry. I kind of use that term loosely for independent animation, because it's just like people are in this
I call it craft.
That's a better word for it.
We are craftsmen. This is a craft. It's something that we dedicated our lives to. So
absolutely on that.
Borrow word from way back when.
Yeah, it's just like I see these kinds of productions being made, and it's just like I can see the passion. I can see people wanting to do this because they feel the need to, not just because they're contractually obligated and more or less forced to do it. They have to make the 13th movie of this iteration or whatever.
Well,
or we can just make the Speakeasy
They have
Cats.
a secure job, so
That's
it's like,
true,
hey,
too.
Well,
you can afford to have a house and kids. I'm not going to besmirch you. So
right.
Yeah.
But I think I look at it as like the two departments currently is you've got indie animation, which exists directly because the audience wants it to, and then the other thing that exists to keep shareholders and it's not about serving the audience. It's about what can we throw out there that's going to make enough to keep these people as impatiently and obscenely rich as they are.
What's going to make our financial report look really good for the investors?
It's it's like, which thing do you want making your creative content? Which thing is going to create? Which thing's going to make something genuine? And
I mean, it's not just us. Even
So
like,
true.
if you guys seen that recent Jenny Nicholson video where she talks about the Star Wars hotel.
Oh yeah,
I've seen it in my feed, but I need to take
watch it.
5
It's
hours
worth
to
it.
So
watch
good.
it.
It's basically as she's like a person who very. If anybody knows Jenny Nicholson, she loves theme parks. She likes to go to themed hotels and things. So she's not even like a huge Star Wars fan. She's like, I like it. It's fine. But I just like themed hotels. And she was just so disappointed in the experience because she knows how much money was pumped into this and how much they're asking of people. And she's like, you could be spending your money like elsewhere, even at different Disney stuff. And it wouldn't take advantage of your dollar quite so much. And it's like, it's not just rich people who are paying for this. It's often like families that are saving up and they're trying to give their kids something, fun to do before they grow up and they fall out of the family vacation thing and they leave. And they just want to have like a nice memory. People will, get rid of their entire savings just to do this. They'll go into debt to do this. And they're not being served. And so that's just like, the hospice industry. And the shareholders are still a primary concern there. It's just like, here's all these great ideas. Let's implement none of them and not care about the customer experience. And we similarly, like, we care about our audiences. We know them better than some like CEO does. So we know what they want. They say it to us directly. We have a Discord community where we see people talking amongst each other and like what they would love to see more of, and we can.
You have the direct feedback. You have that luxury of just being like instantaneously. I know what my audience wants, and I can provide that.
Yeah,
Stop getting your little grubby hands in there and messing it all up for me.
And we have a wonderful community manager who's also our IT guy and technical director, Newt, who helps manage all that and like helps us with like. Collecting data from our audience so that we can see that and respond to it and go like, okay, so they They really love the plushes. Like they've been screaming for plushes for years. They love the plushes, but they'd also like this, this, and this. And so we can talk to our merch partner and be like, hey, can we get these things done?
Right.
Instead of like going through like 15 layers of people and wasting like months only be told no.
Right. Right.
Like for indie animation, it's so much easier to have that direct link to the audience as opposed to the whole like in order to get any kind of feedback to those bigger budget kind of production agencies. Like it took the whole internet screaming bloody murder for Sonic to look like a normal Sonic.
I know.
Yes.
I'm like
God.
70% sure that was just a publicity stunt, to be honest, because there is no way.
It was.
I can
It was not a
confirm there
publicity
was
stunt.
merch made based off Ugly Sonic originally. There's no way they put in that much effort. And
That is just how out of touch the people making these movies.
Yeah, and I
They had to bring in Tyson.
They don't know what Sonic is.
Yeah, we talk a lot about the audience and what the audience wants and what the audience asks for and what the audience needs, but I think it's worth remembering in all the calculus that's being done in the upper echelons of production for these big studios. The audience is a secondary, tertiary concern. The audience is something they think about when they've already made the decisions. Because
oftentimes
where
a lot
their
of
priorities lie, which is what Tracy was talking about with the shareholders. They live from quarterly report to quarterly report. They live from earnings call to earnings call. They have to have something to say to all these people. And one of the things that they can't say, a thing that makes no sense, is to get on the earnings call and be all like, we have amazing plans for this thing no one's ever heard of, and we're putting $100 million into it. Like you can watch the stock fall off a cliff if they do something like that in real time, which is why they behave the way they behave. And they're so frustrating to deal with.
The way they set up their presentations of here's what's coming next is not focused on like exciting the audience and letting the media landscape know, hey, here's, report on this. It's about what impresses shareholders. And the shareholders themselves can be like muddied people who also don't really engage in this media. They don't care what Disney makes. They don't care what Warner Brother makes. They want money. That's why they are investing in these companies quite frequently. And so, these presentations are about them, not us. And you'll see that again and again. Like, I'm sure a lot of people have noticed, like, this increase in, businesses promising a thing, and then it just doesn't make any sense what they're actually giving you. For instance, everything AI right now. It's like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, everything, Adobe's calling things AI that have existed for years, like content aware scale and that kind, and content aware fill that were not labeled AI before. Suddenly that's AI. Why? Because investors will dump more money into the stock.
It looks better.
It looks like you're on the bleeding edge, and you've got this like tech genius plan to make this, and so they incorporate it even though it's not ready for using. Like the tools just aren't really there. And
it's like, why is Google breaking their own search engine? Because the shareholders.
It's the new blockchain. You say you're involved in it, and all the shareholders go, I read about that in the Financial Times.
I haven't seen the work itself, but I've heard it's good.
Yeah,
exactly. So then they sign off on it.
The hype machine is sure doing its work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if they're as unaware as, a lot of the people who are marketing this AI stuff, if they're as unaware as they're hoping they are, they maybe buy the line. They buy the story that they're going to be able to feed this program a prompt, and it will make the movie for them. And think of the millions they'll save, and the shareholders
you'll make your own
will love
cartoon
that.
by just typing in a
That's
sentence.
not how it's going to work, no matter what. But if they can sell that line during the next earnings call, which is, again, these people are thinking maximum a year into the future. They're not thinking how this is going to shake out in 10 years.
Wasn't like the average CEO lasts maybe
for
like
10 years anymore. Board members don't stay for 10 years anymore. They're
stay
here
for like
for
3
2
years.
or 3, and then they're going to collect their $2 billion severance package.
That they get, and then really sell all their stock and get out of there.
Yeah.
So,
you guys have been so insightful with the industry as a whole.
We're so just like tired of it. Spike loves ingesting like this the bullshit parade. I stumble across it.
Yeah, no, I mean we spent the last couple of years just like, learning about all the hoops we've had to jump through, being presented with hoops to jump through, and knowing there's a lava pit like right at the other side of it, and it's just like we're just so tired of it, and it's just like it's impossible to get anything done within this system, so we have to go outside of it and make our own thing.
You've been presented with the hoops and then realize you don't need to jump through any of them. You can just walk around them, and you're still fine.
That's
right,
what
and
doing.
it's not to say it's an easy path. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
Doing
it's
this,
awful.
but it has been it's been the hardest work I've ever done in all my life, and it just keeps getting to be more and more work to try to balance. But you know, it's paying off.
Yeah, at least now you know
Absolutely.
that work's not for nothing.
Yeah, it's not
you
for-
can see what you
not
can
to
see
make
it.
some obscenely rich person even more rich, at least
No.
that, and at least
Very
I'm
true.
making the thing the way I want to make it. I'm not having to compromise and have them sell catnip instead of booze, or make the characters ugly so that it looks like an adult cartoon, or all the other nonsense.
Or Rocky's voiced by Pratt and Michael Kovac.
You just have to conform right to where Hollywood wants you to be, because it sells, as opposed to it actually being good.
Yeah.
Is anybody really clamoring for Chris Pratt as all of your favorite cartoon characters?
I have so many words about that man.
We would be here for longer.
But as a voice actor, I'm just dog.
Yeah.
It's just enough. Enough is enough. But so
we're hoping, at least with the path that we're taking, that maybe we can break ground in a way that like helps other people. So like a lot of other indie producers that
setting precedent,
have chatted with us, or even just looking at us. We hope to be as transparent as possible about how we're getting things done, so that they don't have to, hop over the same broken step. They can just like take another pair of stairs, maybe. And at the very least, like one thing that I've kind of made a policy is like, if something happens, you can't like change what happened, but at the very least you can put a sign up where the speed bump was, so that somebody else knows to slow down before they ramp off of the hill that was dug. So
it's nice that people in this craft, let's use the correct word here, this craft can be like looking out for everyone else, be like, this is what I had to do in order to get my project off the ground. Here's some helpful advice, some tips and tricks that helped me, so here I am helping you, as opposed to any other person in the animation industry being like, oh yeah, that worked out perfectly fine, just so that they can keep their own position and not have to worry about the competition.
Not everything is perfect. I'll admit it. It's a hard job. I've made mistakes, and the only thing I can do about it is to learn from it and try to improve it as we go. But at the very least, I can tell people, hey, here's the mistakes I made. Don't do those things, or like, here's how I overcame them. You can maybe do better. And ultimately, it's because I'm a greedy bitch who just wants more cartoons in the world. So absolutely, I want other people to make stuff. I want to watch it.
I'm not going to stop you there. I want more good cartoons too.
Indie stuff just inherently, maybe I'm biased, but it has so much more love put into it, and it's so obvious that the people that are working on indie projects, such as Lackadaisy, or like any of the 15 that people in the chat could probably rattle off right at this second, there's so much more love and attention to detail. Like, I could stop the screen like 15 times, bare minimum, in like 5 minutes, and find something new and interesting in the background, as opposed to like, I do. That's why my reaction starts like basically reviews. I like triple the length of whatever it is that I'm evaluating. But
computer enhance.
Yeah, exactly. Zoom, enhance. I see this treble clef that's written on this bridge, and it's beautiful, which by the by, beautiful. I'm just gonna, definitely for chat and not for me, I would just like to gush for a second. Y'all have made something absolutely stunning and beautiful.
Thank you.
It is so lovely. As somebody who has like a couple of cats and a couple of dogs, anytime I see a tail move, I lose my mind.
If they're gonna be cats, why not use the cat aspect after all?
It's hard. You can work it into the acting, so naturally it's just so fun to have there.
It's just really fun. There's a reason why furries are so dominant in animation.
They wield so much power.
Bless
they are
the
unbound. They are unbound by your human anatomy.
Bless the furries, because they have done so much to support indie production of all sorts.
Oh my god!
Yes, absolutely.
It used to be that the Vatican was the patron of the arts, right? Now it is the furry community.
Now it's a blue fox with a suspicious amount of money.
How the tables have turned.
When we ran the crowdfunds, one of the weirder features of all the crowdfunds we run is they have a special pledge level, and the pledge level is $10,000. Here's a fun fact, everyone. $10,000 is the maximum pledge level that you can place on crowdfund sites. We know that because we've tried to go through it and it didn't work.
Gosh.
But the $10,000 pledge fund level is just, you get to be an extra. And the people who are backing at that level are invariably what is, humorously referred to, no ill will here, humorously referred to as suspiciously wealthy furries.
We find out they were the CEOs the whole time.
Yeah.
They're just looking for an out. I think most of them, the suspiciously wealthy,
I think a lot of them
work in tech.
Tech and
tech,
IT.
exactly.
And,
Somebody has to sit in the basement of the giant skyscraper and make sure the servers stay online. And a lot of times they are paid very well to do that.
I want somebody to have like a nameplate that just says suspiciously wealthy furry on their office desk. Please come into my office. We have much to
Give
discuss
me like
here.
20 minutes in Adobe Illustrator and I can make one right now.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful discussion there to be had about the industry, but we're going to kind of wheel it back to Lackadaisy as a whole. I know we have a lot of people in chat have questions they want to ask, but I have a few fun little thought exercise questions for our three wonderful guests. So Nevaeh, if you want to grab one of those and ask away.
Give me a number, dog. There's like a good chunk on here.
Do you have the little...
I do have it open, yeah.
Okay, let me get it opened on mine because I took the numbers off because we realized I was going out of order with all of the questions and everything.
Please,
Yeah.
my little brain.
Why don't we pick number 6 is good.
I was looking at 6. I was kind of hoping that you would let me ask because it's such a silly question. Okay, so absolutely blindsided, very political. What are your preferred drinks?
Yes.
I am the biggest square on planet Earth. I do not drink alcohol and have never drunk alcohol. I like grapefruit juice.
Amen.
You like what kind of juice?
Just grapefruit juice, yellow grapefruit juice, the sour stuff, the stuff no one likes anymore. I order it by the crate.
So
I
I'm
wasn't gonna hate on your choice or anything, but you said it.
So I'm gonna see you at the end of the bar just licking a lemon suspiciously.
Exactly.
Just like,
But I love yellow grapefruit juice. I allow myself, juice isn't like the best stuff for you on earth, but I allow myself a cup a day.
Yeah. It's just
Oh, there's worse things to be drinking.
Oh, for sure.
I am a fan of bourbon, and also I love me some absinthe. Like, if I get a chance to have an absinthe drink, it's like, ooh, good. I will trash myself in absinthe. Do you like licorice?
It's an extremely intense flavor. Yeah, it's like like
Is it
you customarily. Yeah, it tastes like
like black
anise,
licorice.
sort of like it's like
Anise.
you put like a little tray over the top of it, and you melt a sugar cube into it to kind of sweeten it to make it a little more palatable.
That is so extra. I love it.
And it's extremely strong. It's like up there with moonshine.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I like me some like amber liquor is pretty good. I like bourbon. I'm not big into vodka, but Tito's is pretty good. I like Tito's.
I used to love Tito's, but like,
and anytime I go to a bar, I ask the bartender to like, what do you think would be good? Like I will try to get them to make something that they would excite them, and give that to me because like I could order like a Manhattan or an old fashioned, sure. But I kind of want to see what the bartender does because that's always really interesting.
You walk in, surprise me.
Yeah, the anime bartender had a big effect on me, which I'm happy to say is there's like a new version of it out now, and I'm like excitedly watching it again.
Yeah, I saw that like pop up in my feed. I'm like, another new thing that nobody has tried before. Yeah, I'm interested.
What about you, Tracy?
I am a pathetic lightweight, and so any kind of like hard alcohol, I'll like maybe have one cocktail if I'm out at a social thing or something. But it's usually something fruity and not very hard edged. But otherwise wine is my thing, and coffee. Like coffee is actually my main staple. So
in this day and age, you need it.
Like I can't drink and then be productive. I have to like drink and then nap. So I can't I can't do that like Hemingway thing where you're like downing whiskey, and then
you got whiskey in the IV bag, and you're just going to town.
Yeah, and it's doesn't work. Nope. I need the
Oh
coffee.
wait, I thought this was about alcoholic drinks. I mean, if we're talking about just not alcoholic drinks, I like Earl Grey tea. That's pretty good.
Well, I mean, Spike was talking
and
about
root beer. I love root beer.
not alcoholic drinks.
Yeah.
Oh no, this is our nemesis arc. I am not a root beer enjoyer.
That's the thing is that I like anise. I like root beer. Like it's all those like kind of flavors that other people don't typically like. I'm like, yes, give me more.
This hypothetical bar we're at serves everything, so
yeah,
go for it.
Yay!
I don't know why, Fable. You feel like a sassafras enjoyer. Or like
yes,
a sarsaparilla.
I sarsaparilla, sassafras. That's all good shit. Like I said, I like root beer, so of course I like sassafras. It's right in the same flavor family.
Very true.
But yeah, even as a kid, I was like, I like black licorice, the good stuff.
Right. And
So the other kids were like, oh, I hate this Jelly Belly. And I'd be like, give me, I want the black one. The flavor of black. Give it to me.
I want the flavor to punch me in the face, please.
I also love spicy food, like spicy enough to kill you. The only person who can match me is my my Cambodian stepmother. She's considered like crazy in her own family as far as her spice tolerance goes. So this is in another like Southeast Asian family. They're like, oh man, Melinda, you like way too much spice. And she and I will have the same palate. I credit my mother, who was from the South, like from Louisiana, just like feeding me Tabasco sauce from infancy. So that's like my baseline.
You built a tolerance.
That's so hard, dude. Like,
I would love for someone to try to do the hot chip challenge for me, and I would just be like, it's okay. Because I've actually tried their hot sauce, and it's like, it's kind of weak to me. I'm not.
And you break out the big bowl and just start having.
No, I'll bring my own. I'd be like, here, I bought
that?"
some death sauce. Let's go.
Yeah,
Now you try.
I'm here for a good time.
Yeah.
So, got a little bit of insight into our crew here. This one will probably go for the fan artists, and this hopefully won't backfire on everybody. But if you were to exist in the Lackadaisy universe, what kind of cat would you be?
Oh,
Black
we've already
Sphinx.
talked about
Black
Yeah.
Sphinx.
Yeah.
I love
No,
that.
I drew
That
a
is, like,
character for you.
Cats are there's like a whole I could like keep people on here like there's a whole raft of animals that I like aesthetically, but I could never own as a pet because I need low maintenance pets. And sphinxes are those kind of cats where I really like the look of them. They're really funky looking, but sphinx maintenance is something I'm not interested in signing up for. But I admire
You should talk to
sphinxes
Kiki.
aesthetically.
She
So
has a
fair.
more realistic idea of how short-haired cats go. But my cat, Cornish Rex, has kind of got that sphinxy look without the high maintenance.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe you look into that.
Maybe.
If I was a cat in the Lackadaisy universe, I would be this kind of grungy-looking Oriental short hair because they just look like goblins. I love how weird they look, and I actually drew myself as a Lackadaisy cat. I kind of took my persona here and turned it into one. It's actually in the pilot, like on Tracy's insistence, it's hidden in the corner. There's like a cat in the empty speakeasy that's like sitting there and like noodling away at a notebook, like in the corner. That's supposed to be me.
It's literally you
Yes.
actively working on the pilot in the pilot.
New person.
Yeah.
Tracy?
Yeah.
I don't know, some kind of unassuming Moggy, I guess, prone to daydreaming and sitting near windows and staring.
Oh.
Drooling out the corner of the mouth. And
Yeah, a little bit of drool. I
Yeah.
guess.
Just you, but with cat ears.
Yeah. Pretty much, yep.
Okay, we got a little bit more creative insight with our guests here. I think now is a high time that we can shift it on over to chat as a whole now. If we have any interesting questions in the back catalog here, I will say this right now: super chats will more than likely get priority with that. So, not to say that it's the guarantee, but it will kind of filter things out for us to get into. So the first one that we'll tackle is from Dry Bones. How do you find a crew in the beginning?
Ooh, that is a Fable question.
Well, largely I already had connections in the industry because I worked here, I worked in cartoons for over a decade. So I reached out to a lot of friends. But anybody that I didn't know where to get folks like sound people or like voice actors and that kind of thing, because that wasn't my field, I just reached out to a person I knew and would be like, hey, do you know anybody who might be available for this thing? And then they would reach out to people. So like by reaching out to the limited people I knew and asking them if they could reach out to their network, then you get like a whole new network basically. And then your network spreads and grows and it becomes like simpler and simpler to find people because like now you know this person who knows you now and you mutually know this person and they'll reach out to you sometimes too, be like, hey, I need help with X, and you give them access to your network. So it's all, that's what networking actually is, guys, by the way. It's not you're at a party and you hand out business cards. It's like, do you really look through that Rolodex of business cards ever and
it's actually making meaningful connections with people, and to do that, it's kind of hanging out in artist communities, getting to know other artists, going to school and meeting other artists there. If you're going to art school or something, like a lot of those classmates may end up being people who work on a crew of yours, or you work on their crew, or and joining like maps projects and things like that, multi-animator projects, and like anything where you can just hook up with people, understand what their skill sets are, get to know them. Start watching their work on, social media and maybe send them a message and just say, hey, I really love your work. Like, how do you do what you do? And then, those sorts of people end up becoming the people you reach out to first when you're like, okay, I've got this project I'm starting. Like maybe you're interested in doing some background art for it, or maybe you are interested in doing board art for it, or, that sort of thing. So
it's finding people who are like, you are willing to ask questions of, and they're willing to give you answers. For a lot of people, they're happy to share.
Yeah, and it's worth noting, like, I'm not going to BS everybody. If you get into Cal Arts and you have a bunch of classmates that you get really tight with, and once you all graduate, that's absolutely going to help to have those kind of connections if you have the privilege of being able to go to these ultra expensive schools. However, it is not necessary. A lot of what people call network, quite frankly, is just making friends and being available and being visible in the scene you want to progress in. If you start at, 18, 19, 20 or older, there is no best by date involved here. I'm just talking
not until
about,
death.
Yeah, not until death anyway.
You might be a little late to get hired then.
If you start making, cartoons by yourself and maybe check your YouTube comments, someone will be like, oh, this is cool. We have an animation Discord, you should join, and you join. And then someone like Fable and Tracy were saying, they get a multi-animator project thing going and you volunteer to do a little 2-second contribution and you hit your deadlines and you turn it in and it looks pretty good. Guess what? You just networked. That was networking you just did. Whee! And maybe 2 or 3 years down the line, there will be a larger project. You can hop on that. And then maybe a few more months, another one. And you just sort of build reputation and you build expectation. And at some point, maybe you can get people from that Discord or mailing list or, meetup or however you go about doing it. And you can get them on your project. It's very organic and it just happens really naturally.
You just got to put your feelers out there and just
you have to participate.
Look for groups, look for communities that are of the same mindset and everything.
Yeah, you have to get the
they have the same goals as you.
You have to earn your reputation before you can hop in the pool. I think it's
not about
show up in the Discord first thing, not knowing anyone and saying, hey, I've got this great idea for a cartoon. It's like, we all do. Get in line.
Yeah.
It's not about like getting like some superhero like to reach down from on high and they'll put you on the pedestal with them. It's oftentimes like the people who are right next to you. Like it's
your peers. Your peers
don't look at them with you.
Don't look at them as competition. Look at them as your peers, your friends, your allies.
Even if they're rivals of a kind, it's friendly anime rivalry where it's like you motivate each other. You're like,
it's more like
you bastard, you got the job I wanted. Oh, I'll get you.
If they're doing something really cool and you're envious of the fact that they're doing it and you can't, ask them how they're doing it. Like that's
So there's a procedure there. You just gotta get out there and put yourself out there essentially and work with the right people and everything.
Stay productive and stay friendly.
Be part of the artist community you want to be part of. It won't come to you. You have to go to it. So
exactly.
a lot of people ask us, is like, oh, how do I get involved in voice acting? I'm like, I wouldn't know. I'm not a voice actor, but I bet if you like get involved in voice acting communities, they'll give you all the advice you possibly want.
And right, it's not just like the directly like hiring the people you are necessarily surrounded by. It's just like hearing about projects and knowing oh, there's a casting call for this, or knowing oh, there's a they're hiring animators right now, so send them your your
and a lot of amazing people that you'll end up working with have like little to no social media presence. So you'll only find out about them that way, and they'll be like your best friends maybe in the future. So it's
also
yeah.
If I could be presumptive for just a moment, I saw a question in the chat asking when Volume 2 of Lackadaisy is going to be available worldwide. August 2024. I'm the publisher. I already know. August 2024.
Well, there you go. There you go. Well, there you go. There was that answer. Glad we could help you there, Daria. So, kind of still waiting for more questions to come through.
Yeah, guys, ask questions. You can. Hey, it's Pride Month. Go ahead with those questions. Why not?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just go for it.
Yeah.
In the meantime, let me see if there's any others that I at least have in the back pocket that could fill the time a little bit. I think this one we didn't really get around to about it specifically, but for Tracy, it's kind of three wrapped up into one. Why Prohibition, why cats, and why St. Louis?
Thoughts of osmosis for all three.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
This is like the question.
I'm not actually in control of anything I do. The parasites took over, and I just
Tracy has 3 cats in a trench coat and a human skin.
I felt that.
Yeah, no, it's because Prohibition, because I moved into a very old house in the St. Louis area and got interested in the history of it, and then that kind of expanded to getting interested in the history of the surrounding area in general, and discovering all of this information about the caves underneath St. Louis. St. Louis is a historically a old brewing town, so lots of beer made here, and part of the reason for that is because there are caves underground, and they're great for lagering and storing alcohol and things like that. And of course, during Prohibition, those were put to use for nefarious purposes. There was, there's a pretty famous brewery around here that collapsed when Prohibition came about, called the Lemp Brewery.
Yeah, we got to visit that when the team actually went to go to St. Louis for a research trip, and we got to explore the basement of the Lemp Brewery.
One of the many basements of the Lemp Brewery. They've got
I spent time in the void.
Multi-tiered basements, multiple tiers of basements, and then down below that they've got the caves, and they use the caves to traffic booze around from one building to another. But they also have like they had a swimming pool down there. They had a theater down there. They used the cave facilities to make things. And I was like, that would be a really cool idea for a speakeasy, to just have it in one of the caves. Because speakeasies, when Prohibition came about, were everywhere. People would have them in their basements, their barns out back, or restaurants would have spinning walls where they'd like have a whole bar that they would just hide, anytime the cops came in or whatever.
They got creative back then.
Yeah, they were very sneaky.
And everybody did it. It wasn't just people think of like, Prohibition, that's like the mafia, the Italians, right? It's like, no, it was everybody.
It was just Al Capone, right? It's like, no, everyone in every city had a drinking place they knew of to go to, and everyone and their mother was running some kind of booze operation.
Aggressively. If you talk to your grandparents to see if they remember any stories from like their grandparents or their parents about like that time period, and I bet you they're like, oh yeah, my uncle, like he was like trafficking this and that. It's like the everyman American story, basically.
Yeah, and actually one of the issues with Prohibition is that it became so common and casual to break the law. It changed the relationship a lot of Americans had with the law. It used to be very sort of normal that, if something is illegal, it is bad. And if you are a criminal, you are a bad person, because criminals break the law and only bad people break the law. But when suddenly your grandmother is breaking the law by letting grape juice go off,
that combined with the the depression that followed, shortly after in the 30s, like broke everybody's trust in the system. Like banks were taking people's houses away. The cops were arresting grandpa because he had some alcohol in his car or something. It's like people turned toward outlaws, and that's why you get these Bonnie and Clydes and Babyface Nelson.
People were ACAB back then, and for a very, very good reason, just like now.
Relationship with with cops and change people's relationship with criminals, because it's the criminals who are
and
providing them
how
with
that
what they
relates to
want.
the Hays Code and everything. All really interesting stuff. Like where like people started turning to like, oh, we actually think of the outlaw as a hero now, and then the Hays Code comes in as like, oh no, we gotta like change the rules in Hollywood so that you can't portray the gangster as a good guy. You can't shoot a cop on screen and all this stuff. Like it's
funny how much that's affected us even right now, even though it was decades ago. Like we'll get comments on YouTube being like, but I thought that he was the good guy. Like, why is he doing the bad things? That's illegal. It's like, or like, I thought he was the bad guy. Why is he with the good guys right now? It's like, I have some news for you. Antagonists and protagonists are just labels. It has nothing to do
they don't
with
mean
morality.
hero or villain.
They do not mean hero or a villain.
Everybody's some shade of gray, and I really like that as a basis for a story about characters who are all shades of gray, all very morally ambiguous.
A lot of that attitude started with the Hays Code, because it's like folks from on high had this moral panic of, oh no, people are going to want to commit crimes because of the movies, and it's like, as opposed to the movies being reflections of people's lives and
people's attitudes about like you know. But cats, because who's a better outlaw than a cat? I don't know. Who's more of a...
Cats are always up to nefarious stuff, so that just kind of fits in perfectly.
I mean, they're just kind of
so charming about it.
a natural fit for that sort of thing. It's like, you can't tell me what to do. I'm gonna make some booze. So
it's like, I technically own you. You don't own me. So that's how this whole works. All right, so we got a few more that are starting to pop in now, at least 2 from Dexter, but we'll start with the first one that he has. What's the most awkward line and favorite line that the actors got to say at as their character in the booth while recording with from the pilot or in the season 1 recording session? What's some notable awkward? We could possibly like maybe not lines, but maybe awkward, funny moments during the recording session. We can kind of flub it there too.
So Brad, who plays Wick, he has made Wick much more interesting, let's say. And I'm sure the fans know. Again, it's Pride Month. We'll go there. I'm sure the fans know that Zib makes a pass at Wick, sort of to get Mitzi's goat, and sort of because he's like that during the pilot. Brad's interpretation of the line originally was reciprocal. Very reciprocal. And we just started cracking up and be like, I'm so sorry. Wick is just supposed to be polite here, but he actually leaned into it. And I think like
ad-lib it.
Yeah, Val and Brad absolutely will just like play it up that way, and it's so funny. And like Ash, meanwhile, who plays Mitzi, is just like, these are my boys here having fun together. They like to promote this idea that they're like a polycule. I think that's hilarious.
Oh, cats are getting up to some weird stuff.
I don't know. Have you seen how cats are? Just like a
they're
giant
doing
pile.
Whatever.
Yeah, they don't care.
I have this might be controversial. I think cats are just inherently gay. I'm gonna say it. Like, my cats are boyfriends. They definitely are. Yeah. And my friends' cats are boyfriends. Like, it's just the nature of the...
Cats do not give a crap about your gender standards.
Just cuddle up in the window with the sun and just chillax.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
yeah, it's always funny when somebody comments and they're like, "Oh, thank goodness, a cartoon that's not full of the woke. There's none of that rainbow grade in here." And I'm like, "I'm sorry. Have you watched the same cartoon as everyone else?"
I don't know who they think is making all of the cartoons they watch, but
seriously,
they don't.
I think they don't know anything about the 1920s either.
No.
Again. Like, a lot of queer history, like a lot of queer American culture, stems from the speakeasy times. Like, it was very gay back then, extremely. Yeah. You can find a lot of articles.
You're already bootlegging alcohol. Yeah. You're already breaking the law there. What's more to it?
You can find a lot of accounts, like of famous trans people in the time, like both ways, like lots of queer folks, like. Man, there was a lot of ladies wearing suits and stuff. And the thing is, like, just being like a woman out in public without an escort was considered outrageous. And she's
woman
smoking.
Wearing pants.
A woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a woman drinking in public was not a thing that was supposed to happen.
Mhm.
And then in
Yeah.
the 20s, and in the 20s, suddenly dresses got way shorter than they were in the Victorian
Yeah.
and Edwardian eras, and women were out there drinking, smoking, their knees were visible. It was like
We
insane.
call them
They're
flappers.
partying with the
But
girls.
yeah,
Ooh.
like it was not only like, I mean, obviously Jim Crow laws were everywhere, but
Yes.
races were mixing in these speakeasy
Mhm.
spaces. Women were out there being independent and having a good time.
Mhm.
It was all very scandalous, and yes, gay acts were extremely popular.
One of the
drag acts and
one
trans.
of the things that I always tell people to look up if they ever start complaining about the direction of popular culture. I beg of you, Google dirty blues. There are songs out there that are like, it is the 21st century, and there are songs that are recorded in like the 30s that are so wildly obscene.
I mean, I don't know if you've heard of Jelly Roll Morton, but I mean, you might imagine what
Yeah.
that name alludes to. I mean, they weren't very, like, they wouldn't say it explicitly, but they were not subtle about what they were singing about.
No. In fact, we noticed like a big difference between like the stuff that was appropriate for the radio at the time.
Oh,
It was
yeah,
like,
for sure.
I'm hanging out with my honey under the trees and we're holding hands together.
I mean,
Oh, I love my sweetie, we're gonna get married. And then like the actual
love
stuff
that
people were listening to
song.
was like, he's got me draped over the piano and we're drinking until the dawn.
Yeah, it's like one of the things that I think kind of people make this mistake
Emotionally
in
prepared
believing
for that lyric.
is an issue a lot of people have is they mistake their ignorance for fact, which
Yeah.
they'll tell you about how no one did this back then. Oh, not only did they do it, they
But
recorded
they
it.
did it.
Here is a
Recorded it,
recording.
yes! Again,
I don't
the
know,
Hays
it's like-
Code was like, let's put a stop to that. There was some saucy stuff in cinema then.
Yeah.
I think you see a lot of like, old like black and white photos and like sepia photos, and everybody looks very staid and serious, and they're all wearing
Yeah.
suits and looking fancier than we tend to look today. But the idea of casual dress was very different then. But they think that because of that, like, people were more serious then and just didn't do this kind
They're
of
just
stuff.
trying to stay still for the photo. man.
And we think of ourselves like,
say,
oh,
yeah.
we devolved as a society. It's like, no, they
No.
were like, they were just as obnoxious and weird and
Yeah.
Your
Like,
grandma
the point of
behind
Lackadaisy,
the barn with
yeah.
her boyfriend.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
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 Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's fair. It's just like, it's for as much as times change, they kind of stay the same too.
People haven't really changed. I wouldn't
No.
say.
It's just it's all
kinda
out.
like
It's all out in the open now.
It's
so
kind of like how, there's like this, a certain segment of society goes, we're going backwards. When times were really good, back in the Roman era, and they point to like the white marble statues and stuff. And they're like,
They weren't.
yeah, you
They
see
weren't
this?
white marble. They were painted.
Yeah, they weren't
in,
actually.
like,
They were painted like gaudy, like flamboyant colors, like galore. And like you look at all of the graffiti from that back then, and it's like, oh yeah, Sisyphus, he has a huge penis.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did I just get you demonetized?
Nah,
My
it's fine.
apologies.
It's fine. It's fine.
But yeah,
I
they're
just looked
they're
on my
very
radar
body.
most of the
Man
time.
on stream.
People are a bunch of horny monkeys forever and always, and
Yeah.
anybody asserting to the contrary is thinking wishfully.
And quite frankly, I think
Yeah.
that makes people from the past far more relatable. Like one of the most popular aspects of archaeology, pop archaeology, I should say, is something like Roman and ancient Egyptian graffiti, things that were just made by the Lackadaisy people who were writing on the walls of brothels or doing dirty little drawings while they were sitting on the communal public latrines.
Yeah.
And they say things like,
Here's the poop stick.
yeah, Theophilus, how dare you walk around the streets nude like a dog? Jupiter will smite thee for thy stupidity. And that's the Kilroy with here that you find in Pompeii. And I think that's beautiful. I think that people have always been kind of gross and kind of messy and kind of embarrassing is very relatable.
Exactly.
We saw underneath the Lemperuri when we were exploring it, like there's a bunch of graffiti on the walls, and we were really enjoying like finding like what's the oldest graffiti here, and you just like walk back into the void, and there's just like decades and decades, and you can see how like the penmanship would change a little. But you also notice like this one guy worked there for like 30 years. Oh man, you see his name multiple times on the wall.
He's getting
Pretty
around.
cool. Yeah. He had a solid career down there.
There's graffiti on
The
ancient
void.
Egyptian monuments by like Roman soldiers that say things like Gar, son of Gran, wrote me with axe. And it's like, good for you,
Woohoo!
dude.
I think I remember
You're
reading an
immortal.
article
not
about
not
that.
great doing the graffiti on this particular monument, but good for you. Good for you.
Yeah. You read that and you're like, yeah, same, buddy.
Garb was here even back then.
So, continuing on with our super chatted questions, Dexter's got at least another one, and this can relate back to everyone's cat sona, I guess is what we can call it. If you could be friends with any character in the Lackadaisy universe, who would it be?
Probably Atlas. I'm just curious mostly.
Just so that I can know what the heck's
You
going on.
You want to know what the other businessman is doing. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, you won't have to know for very long, at least.
Yeah.
If it becomes a problem.
I'm one of those people, I'm the sucker for the silent protagonist, you know what I mean? And I don't know if Atlas qualifies as a protagonist exactly, but, you know, I'm one of those people who really liked Gordon Freeman and, you know, Link. I just like the people who don't say much. It allows me to project a ton. So probably Atlas.
I like him quiet.
Exactly.
I like having to read their facial expression to see if I can finally get them to crack a smile.
Exactly.
I would love to hang out with the Savoys at least for a night. That'd be great. I mean, like, man, they would know where the best food is, and you would have a good time that night. Maybe not a morally correct time, but you will have a good time that night.
You will have a time.
You will have memories. Hopefully.
your life will flash before your eyes.
Depends on
that's
how
for
much
sure.
absinthe you have.
Yeah.
Seriously.
They would know where the good shit is too, and how to serve it.
I don't know. I live with them all in my head all the time. I don't know.
So fair.
I can't
so
get
sorry.
away from them. So
So the answer would just be yes.
yeah. Yeah.
It's just
I
all-
probably get along with Lacey because she's the lowest key character. I would say she's pretty.
She's not high maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's also not
It's just saying a lot
necessarily-
for a cat.
yeah.
She's the cat that just sits on the back of the couch is like, yes, and you can give
I
her a
help
pat, and she's like, that is acceptable.
Any
more
more than
than
that,
she
and I'm
will.
gonna lash out like
Yeah.
no one's business. So, one question from Manny comes up now. For the animators, if there are any in the chat here, what advice could I get for drawing / shading as well as gear such as tablets, that junk?
I mean, if you're talking about traditional art or digital art, I mean, there's answers for both.
well,
Let's
tablets-
say
imagine
digital because of tablets.
It's digital.
Okay.
I'm not actually part of the crew, but I am an artist in my own right, and I do draw for fun. Everyone read my weird webcomic.
Write that down. Write that down.
Like it.
Oh yeah, I will. Okay, but yeah, basically, I have a Wacom tablet. It's the model is 21 UX. I'm not even sure they make it anymore.
No, they do
Wacom
not.
makes tablets that last forever. The
They used
tablet,
to.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh really? Oh, has that changed? Oh no.
Well, it depends on the model. My 24 Pro has done very well, but I know that the companions, what was it called? Mobile Studio, that's what they're called now, are much more sensitive. But yeah, the 21 UX, that lasts forever.
Yeah, I bought this. I want to say in like 2008. I bought it decade plus ago, and it's still going strong. It has no issue with anything. It is literally so old that Wacom is kind of crappy about making the drivers easy to find. And when you try and update the drivers through the official channels, I shit you not, pardon my French, a pop-up shows up on your screen that says, hey, we no longer support these drivers. Have you considered buying a new tablet? It's like, no.
Yeah,
I want
so-
this one.
Yeah.
I love
So yeah,
that.
Wacom is probably the best known as far as digitizers go and tablets go. It's
Yeah.
it's also the most expensive way you can go. I know a lot of artists are swearing by the Huon models now, so you might look into that as like
I've heard of XP Pen as
HUION.
well. Yeah.
XP Pen. Yeah, there are cheaper options, and the experience is very, very comparable, if not indistinguishable. Like, so you don't feel like you have to go with the most expensive thing. I have for a long time used Cintiqs, and I also have a mobile studio. It's really handy to be able to just take that computer and lean back on the couch and paint and draw on it. But it gets really hot, and I did have a problem in the past where I had to replace it because the battery started expanding.
Yeah, that's what I was talking
no.
about with
That's not a good
Wacom's
sign.
Mobile Studios. Yeah.
No. But my old Wacom, like I've got one of these old, I think it's like one of the Pro models, like that connects to the computer. This thing has lasted for years upon years.
Yeah.
It's so scratched up. I have to keep replacing the protective surface because I just scuff it up so much over the years.
Yeah,
it's like,
Gotta get the shading just right.
Yeah.
The standard tablets that they make that are just meant to connect up to a mobile, just meant to connect up to a workstation. You don't walk around with it. Those are fine. Those are
those
great.
last a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, they are built to last. It's what they specialize in. But if you're talking about a mobile thing, I mean, a lot of people swear by the iPad Pro, so I can't say that that's wrong. I know that there's like Android tablets also you can make use of, and I think XP Pen also has a mobile option now. So I mean, those are some things that you can use if you're like, well, I don't want to be hooked to the computer, or I just want to have an all-in-one device, like, and you're just looking to draw stuff and maybe do some light animation. There's some programs that can handle that. But I like workstations because I like to have like as much power at my disposal, and I like to have like a space in my home that I specifically work at too. That said, I would like to get a mobile option myself, just so that I can sit on the couch and doodle, or if my back is hurting, I can still work.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Just need to stretch the legs and.
Yeah.
Shading and drawing advice is a little hard to give in like the very, very broad sense, as far as the other part of that question goes. But
yeah, it's like building your eye, basically.
Do observational sketching. Just go to town sketching. You don't have to do it digitally. Just get yourself a sketchbook that you like drawing in and a pencil, and find a comfortable spot.
And don't be worried about making a bad drawing, like especially when you're just doing studies. It's fine. Your sketchbook doesn't have to be shared with other people. So.
In fact, sometimes it's handy to do things like draw in pen, so that you can't just spend all your time erasing and trying to perfect a drawing. Just do one sketch after another. Like spend 5 minutes on it, spend 2 minutes on it, and move along.
And all you need is like a ballpoint pen can do you wonders. Like ballpoint pen, some basic paper, just anything you're comfortable with working with, so that you're not fighting what you're working with. If it interests you or you're comfortable with it, that's all you need. Because you just want to like make sure that there's not as much hampering, like the thoughts in your head to your hands. You don't want there to be like too much collision going on there.
As far as like instruction goes, Gurney is great for lighting.
James Gurney, creator of Dinotopia. He has he has a
YouTube channel, and he does lots of plain air art and things like that. Talks about painting with light, basically, and he's got a book out that you can buy that I think is actually called Painting with Light or something to that effect. There's lots of other resources as well, like Proco on YouTube. Does lots of instructional videos that are natural media, often pencil based. If you want to learn how to shade and draw in pencil, check that out. Prokopenko is, I think, the pronunciation of the name, but Proco is like what it's best known as. So, lots of there's so much instructional stuff on YouTube. Sometimes sitting and watching an artist do one of their like speed paints or something like that, or especially if they're narrating over the top of it, explaining what they're doing at any given point in the video, you can just pick up so many new techniques and like ways of handling things that way. It really broadens your sensibilities.
You can watch artists also, like there's some artists on Twitch and YouTube who will stream when they're drawing.
Yeah, watch other artists. That is hugely educational.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
See how they do it, and
the old-fashioned way of learning. Just watch other people do it. Yeah, you are a sponge monkey. Use it.
Put your own spin on it once you nail it down and make it your own.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what you do is you collect all the different techniques and like ways of drawing things and stylistic flourishes and stuff that you've encountered over the years, and all the ones that you really like, and it kind of just like amalgamates into your personal style. And
very true.
Absolutely. So next question we got is from Pixel Pro Gaming. For a question to our three guests, what has been the most positive experience with the series and the fandom as a whole?
Oh God, there's been so many. It's hard.
I was about to say there's like
we are regularly overwhelmed by the response of people who are just so happy and grateful that Lackadaisy is happening.
Thank you for buying the merch. That's
Thank
very
you.
positive. So I can
Thank
pay
you.
other people, yeah.
Ironically, thank you.
Yeah, oh, no,
Yeah,
like,
no,
not a
seriously.
joke at all.
Yeah, seriously, like all of the revenue from that goes directly back into production. Just so you know, nobody is pocketing it. It's
There
literally
is no
paying.
yachts.
Is
Yeah.
literally paying the crew to make the animation.
Exactly.
So yeah, but anyway, yeah, I mean, anytime we get together with crew and hang out with them and with the cast. And goof around and just do silly character voices and then record some things. It's just such a blast. And it's so like invigorating creatively. You know, like I was saying earlier. And
it's a hard job, but like the people you work with make it fun.
Yeah,
So,
it's like I said, like when you write a script and you're like, I'm not sure if this works, or you know, you can
I just
kind of
get
envision
excited.
it. But,
I was like, oh boy, I can't wait to make Sungwon say this nonsense.
but then you actually record it, and it suddenly just transforms into a whole performance, and that is just like amazing, an amazing feeling because it has just like leveled up to something else. And then you start adding the visuals to it with the you know, the boards and then the animation,
and then the sound.
and then
oh my god, when the sound
comes in, and then compositors put it all together and put the final like polish on it, and it's just like, wow, this is a for real cartoon. We made a thing. That's like amazingly rewarding, and you're generally pretty exhausted by that point. But you know, but it's like it's so worth it to get there, to struggle to get there. But also like the fan interactions have been great. Like we've had some really amazing responses to things we've premiered at conventions and stuff like that, and people have just been extremely supportive and awesome to us, and we're deeply grateful for that.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, the Kickstarter is any indication of that.
Parasite.
Yeah. Yeah.
The probably one of the things that I did not expect that I would be like, oh, actually, I like this a lot, and you guys might like this response. The reaction videos where it's just some people who are just enjoying watching it, and they're like saying, it's like, oh, I love that guy, you know, and they're talking about it, they're excited, they're like, oh, what's this mean, you know, or like, oh my god, look at that thing. I really love that because like in all my career, I didn't get a chance to watch people watching my stuff. Yeah, you don't get a chance to watch people watching your stuff, so it's really nice actually to see people like actually being excited about your work and responding to it, and it's kind of gratifying when you set something up and they notice it in the way that you were kind of hoping they would, and you're like,
sometimes
yay, it worked!
When people take the context clues and piece something together, and you see them work it out, and they like type it out on like Tumblr or something, and you're like, yeah, you got it.
Yes, there you go. Now you're catching on. That's really fun.
I'll say this: when I first started watching and it set the setting and the time period, I was like, wait a minute, St. Louis, I'm from there.
Yeah.
So it's like
it
suddenly
doesn't get enough love, honestly. Like especially
hits.
you know, the early 20th century, it was kind of a big deal as a city. It's, you know, flyover country now, I guess, as people would call it. But
in pieces.
Yeah.
It's about St. Louis, and that's about it over here.
It's a city. It's just
St. Louis,
on the
Kansas
other
City.
side, but then
Well,
which one?
I guess Columbia, but on a much smaller scale, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of not much of anything in between. The Ozarks are beautiful, but
yeah. I don't see any more questions at the moment right now. Nevaeh, do you have any off the top of your head that you'd like to ask?
I actually do have a question. So you kind of touched base a little bit on this, Tracy, earlier, but I was wondering for pretty much any of you, when was that moment, or can you pinpoint the moment where you had that surreal feeling of just like, this is happening? We're like making a show, even if it was just for like, we're making a pilot of my comic that I've been pouring love into. That's crazy.
It's been that has happened numerous times where like sometimes you'll get in this headspace where you're just so stressed out about everything and like, you know, production worries and all this stuff, and, you know, financial worries and just like scheduling worries and like, oh, how am I going to get all this done in time, and how are people going to react to this? I'm so like, you know, it's like the anxiety is just like,
and like the more people that are involved, like the more
stressor. Every now and then though, all of that will clear away, and you're like, I'm living my dream. Like why am I so like anxious and upset about everything? Like like this is a dream come true. I get to make a cartoon of my own comic with these characters, and I get to work with all these amazing artists to do it, and people out there seem to be pretty much enjoying it. Like how could I possibly ask for anything more? So it's kind of like it's like that sometimes. Like you have this like moment of lucidity amidst all the anxiety and stress, and it's like, oh, like I'm doing the thing that I wanted to do when I was a kid, you know. And it's like, how many people can say they got to do their you know, childhood dream?
I think
exactly.
one of my favorite moments, like during the pilot, like early on, was when we started recording the characters and just seeing, like, sitting there and be like realizing it was like, for you, this must be like, oh my god, they're out of my head, they're talking to me right now. Especially like that moment where you're like schooling Zib basically on how to sing Blue Skies. I was like, that was so cute. I ended up making it an animatic with the help of some of the other crew members and giving it to Tracy as a birthday present.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was sweet, yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool. I remember that.
It's just
That's
all
so lovely.
it's just all piecing itself together. It's like
Yeah.
this is
But
a thing that's happening now.
Yeah, but that's the thing they don't tell you about. Living the dream is actually very anxiety-inducing and stressful sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
well,
it's like,
I mean,
if you fail, it's like, I've destroyed my
Right.
dreams. Okay.
Yeah, it's like
Oh,
everything
no.
everything is on the line, but also it's so amazing and wonderful, and so
Mhm.
and you have built this thing, and you're just so afraid to lose it or to mess it up in some way that you're just like, I gotta be perfect.
Mhm.
But
Sometimes you just gotta take that leap.
sometimes you just gotta like lean back and chill out for a minute and go like, man, I like pretty much I did the thing that 6-year-old me was like desperate to do, and
Yeah.
even if it all fell apart now, I'd still be so grateful for the you know,
Yeah, no
experience.
matter what. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So we do have, I think, one more we can do here. And I'm sorry, I Spanish is not my language here, so I can't really pronounce your name there. But are you planning on expanding Lackadaisy in other languages?
Also, Ikerse Poveda, I believe, but I could be
Yeah.
incorrect.
Yeah, we would love to. It's kind of a budgetary limitation at this point in time. We, you know, in order to do a Spanish dub, which is kind of at the top of our list of dubs we'd like to do,
Yeah.
you know, we have to hire a whole team of Spanish voice actors and a voice director to, you know, handle that for us, make sure we get the script right, because it's not just a one-to-one translation. You can do, as we found out.
Definitely can't do it with Google
Right, we
Translate.
do have subtitles. We like currently we're
Mhm.
doing subtitles. We've got, you know, Spanish, French, Japanese currently, and of course English. We want to expand that even further as well. But yeah, I'd love to do French dubs, Spanish dubs, Portuguese dubs, like anything we can. But it's like we've got to get some more money rolling it before we can afford to hire entire additional teams of VAs, because
we
that
can
is
provide the subtitles, because that's like much that can get done much quicker. It's not a distraction from like the main
right. That's like a
production.
one-person job to do a
Far
translation.
more
Like,
expensive. Yeah.
right, but when you're hiring an entire other cast, yeah, that can be very pricey.
We don't
and
have
so-
enough people on hand,
Very
like
true.
enough
Right.
money to pay some people too.
Yeah, it's like I'm hoping
we'll.
we'll get there, and we're trying to.
Yeah.
It's
but
like you have a special consultant just to get Victor's accent right.
yeah, we
That's
do.
because that's a fellow animator that I was a fan of their work, and then I realized it's like, oh wait, they're from Slovakia. I should reach out to them and see if I can get some help for Jason, because like, you know, Jason wants to make sure that Victor is like really good. We don't want him to be mistaken
Victor,
for
yeah, I
Russian
mean,
by people who are actually from the area in particular.
right. Jason
We don't want
is-
Eastern Europeans to cringe.
right, we don't want to insult anybody, and
Yeah.
and so we want to make sure we get it right. And also, Jason is a consummate actor and professional, and he wants to make sure it's right, because this is his career, and you know, he wants to be as professional as possible and be, you know, accurate. And so we've worked very hard to try to make sure that he sounds like he's Slovak when he talks. So yeah,
But it took me a while to find somebody who could do that, because it's like there's not, I don't know that many Slovakian people online, unfortunately. It's not a region that is as well represented as, say, like Poland or Russia or Ukraine. So I just felt very fortunate that I came across Nick, aka Sour Noodle, who is a fantastic animator.
check out
If you've
their
seen
work.
Werewolf,
It's great.
is a really good animation that they did. So yeah,
it's that
yeah,
networking thing again that comes into play.
Oh, yeah.
It's
You gotta find the people.
Yep.
You gotta bring them on.
Yeah,
Just
nobody
gotta
just
find the
like
right
nobody
guys.
just like exists for you just because like, oh, I'm popular now. Oh, look at all these resources that just happened in front of me. It's like, no, you have to build up all of that, because we don't have like the the resources that like major studios have, where they have regular people that they get in touch with. And even if I reach out to some people, they might not respond because they're just like, who the fuck are you? So, you know,
Sorry.
yeah, like, who are you? Or they got so many people already like tugging on their shirt that you're just one among many emails that get drowned out. So just you know, just you feel happy every time that somebody is there to help you, like, just make it a little bit more polished.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we got one more question that we can ask. We've just passed the 2-hour mark on this one. I don't want to keep you guys any further from your cartoon cats and your IRL cats that we needed to be taken care of. So, train and games, I think is how we're going to pronounce that name. Question for Tracy. Is Ruby Pepper a car guy? And what other characters are car enthusiasts?
Ruby's the guy you call when you need a thing done. He's kind of he's, you know, whatever you need him to be in the moment. Ruby.
So he's the guy you know.
He's a mover and a shaker.
He's the guy who knows a guy.
Yeah,
he's a mechanic, but Ruby is a mechanic.
Right. Victor is actually the gearhead among them. He
Yeah.
actually really enjoys working on cars and enjoys work, you know. But Ruby is more the, you know, I'll get you this thing. I know I got a connection.
He can sell the car.
And then he's gonna come and like try to impress Atlas, like this one's a twin sixes, and you know
he brought him a dead mouse, and he was like, "Hey friend, let's check out this dead mouse." It's like
he's a deal broker, you might say. So yeah.
Okay.
Which is where Ivy gets her little inner con artist, I guess. So
yeah, that's fair.
That was my favorite part. Is like, how much can we show in Ingenue that Ivy is a daddy's girl, and so you see. I wanted people to go like, what's Ivy's deal? Like, what's her whole thing? And then you see her dad, you're like, oh, she's like her dad. She's trying to be her dad. Okay.
I see.
Yeah.
Ingenue was so good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Finally seeing that scene of just Mordecai backing up slowly and then getting the heck out of there. It's like, oh, that's what he was running away from, not the cucumber.
Yeah.
Got it.
That was something
Endo.
I think Endo stuck that in there, our lead animator. Just was like, okay, ready for feedback, and just drop that in there.
It's like, I was looking at that and I'm like, what context is this? Like, what am I looking at here?
Oh yeah.
You've seen those videos?
I don't know if you've seen the videos where people put a cucumber in your
got.
cat.
It's like I get the bit.
Yeah. Apparently they like think it's a snake or something.
It's probably
like
it's probably a very instinctive reaction to anything that might be snake shaped.
It is a oblong green thing on the ground, really, really close to me all of a sudden.
Yeah. And then suddenly they just like whoop into the air like anti-gravity, just like
I want a scene where where they come back down to the bar and everyone's on one side of it, staring at a cucumber that's sitting on the other side of it, and they don't know what to do.
Oh, these controversial pickles.
Not the pickle controversy is crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's where we can kind of end it. I hear the rooster saying, "It's time. We're done here." He's been saying that for the past 2 hours.
Corn.
So I'd like to thank everyone, Tracy, Fable, Spike. I'd like to thank all three of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to do this little interview with us and provide a little behind the scenes shenaniganery, I guess, as far as Lackadaisy is concerned, and giving your insight. Yeah, a little peek into the scenes and everything, and giving your general feedback into the whole indie animation sphere as a whole. It's really, really nice to see like people in that space with that sort of knowledge and just giving us a little bit of a heads up and everything like that.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a really fun conversation. And it was lovely meeting you both, Viger and Nevs. Thanks.
Thank you.
Not that you guys need any more reach, but if there's anything that you want to shout out that
may
not be Lackadaisy,
absolutely,
but it could be.
I don't know if Spike wanted to mention your comic, and Fable, maybe we want to mention your comic.
My comic is called Lacada. The name is not good. It doesn't mean anything, but at least it's memorable and easy to Google. If you go to http://lacada.com, not https because it's a forwarding link. You can find it. It's about like 55, 56 pages up right now. You can read from the first page, go forward. It's about 3 terrible people in I like to say, not Central Asia during the not Russian Revolution. I've taken to calling them Five Little Mouse and the Keebler Elves because they live under a tree and one of them's got the hat. The very first thing that happens is we witness like 5 felonies in the first 10 pages just to set the tone.
I love that.
That is such a good hook.
But it's
we're already 5 felonies deep.
We're 5 felonies deep. 5 really awful things that didn't need to happen all happen in a row. But that's where we are right now. It doesn't update very fast because I'm literally running an animation company and a comic publisher at the same time while trying to do this. But it's a story in my heart that I'd love to tell, and I'd appreciate it if people could give it a look.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the art is like your inking is just so
you're
nice.
so
like
kind.
Yeah, Spike is an amazing inker. It's
Ah,
like, man, you want to see some good line work? There you go.
Oh, God.
Perishing at the compliments is such a mood, dude.
Stop
How
being
to
nice to
destroy
me.
any artist. Yeah.
Oh,
Just start saying you like their art.
Yeah, just watch them melt.
Yeah. They curl up into a ball.
Buddy in
They're
your
like,
hands.
"Oh,
Yeah.
little
Needed
pill
a
bugs, all of
racer.
them.
Yeah. But yeah, Lackada, go read it.
Okay, and Fable, your comic?
Yeah, my comic has been on hiatus for a bit simply because I had to eat, and it was a switch between.
Been a long
Crazy
month, man.
human needs.
Yeah, I used to update it. You know, every 2 weeks there would be 2 pages. So there's like, I think there's like 120, 150 pages that you can check out right now, and there is many hundreds more planned that I've written ahead. But I had to put a pause to actually releasing it, even though I do actually have a lot more pages drawn up already, because I have way too much attention to detail. I'm like, no, I don't want it up until it's like good. And I have ever-shifting standards of what good from me means.
I hear that.
And but yeah, mostly I came to a period in my life where I simply did not have free time. I really didn't have a lot of money. And it was like, you know, hand to mouth constantly. Like Tracy said, like I was going to the internet going like, I'll make you a cartoon if you can help pay for, you know, repairing my computer and my tablet. So
I hear that. Working for the meal, not the real.
It is like just making a living as an artist is fantastically difficult, but as a comic artist, I'd say even more difficult. Comics are very difficult to.
Yeah, web comics especially. Like if you're ever like, oh god, they got so lazy and these stuff.
Yeah,
it's
you
no,
like
that's
yeah,
not
it's
why.
like there's a reason why web comics are known for being unreliable and sporadic and stuff. It is because the people making them are not making any money doing that most of the time.
It's this little thing called life.
And they
I've sold maybe I've sold maybe 100 books of my of the first chapter of my comic. I did not make that much money. Did not make enough money to, you know, even pay for like the next run. And now I'm drowning in first chapter books, and I hate looking at them.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And my Patreon just did not take off. So it wasn't making money, and other things were making money. So I had to, you know, choose what to do with the limited amount of free time I had with the health that I had, because I have chronic, you know, pain issues with my hands, especially that have taken me years to, you know, find solutions for, and they take money also to find solutions for, unfortunately.
Right.
But but I still want to get back to it. In fact, I've been investing heavily in fountain pens and traditional media and stuff because I'm finding that I just like inking on paper so much more than on the computer, which like I can do it well, I just hate it. And I want to love every part of my comic and not see any part of it as the grind. So I've been working on how to get back to it and do it in a way that's like a lot better for me, mental health wise at least. But you can find my work. It's very old. I don't know that it really represents my quality as a writer or an artist anymore. But you can go find it at umbagogcomic.com. That's UMBAGOG comic.com. It is an Abenaki word. It's referring to a lake up in northern New Hampshire, my home state. And the story is basically a zombie apocalypse, you know, takes over the world, you know, as they tend to do.
As they do.
Yeah, as they do.
That sometimes.
But you're instead focused on this small community in northern New Hampshire that's trying to deal with it instead of like a major city or like your usual locations and like how everybody's responding to it. But also on top of like, you know, what you usually expect from zombies, the thing is they can come back from the dead, but they are changed physically and mentally. And if you as a zombie are able to progress through different stages, basically, till you get to what's called a half-dead, you wake back up as this like distorted version of yourself, and the parasite that's invaded your brain is itself like this secondary consciousness that you share with, that urges you into cannibalism and that kind of thing to, you know, sustain itself.
That's kind of baller, dog.
That's
So
interesting.
the zombies
really
are
cool.
themselves characters, while the survivors are dealing with, like, you know, how to survive, how to live and everything. And all of it is basically my way of kind of examining apocalypse and zombie apocalypse tropes and going like, okay, but would we really act like that?
Yeah.
And the irony is that I started this project back in like, what is it, like 2011, 2012, and I said it in 2020, and oh my god, I did not, it was not intentional. Like a zombie plague happens in 2020, and I just like 2020 rolls around, I'm like, I hate this so much. So now I feel like I have to pick it up again, because it's gonna come across as one of those like, oh, they're just doing that because it's like, you know, timely or whatever. It's like, no, I don't know. I predicted global plague. I did not ask for this.
You keep
and one of my main
fate,
antagonists.
It's all your fault, Mabel. You made it happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of my main antagonists, by the way, is a guy with blonde hair who fancies himself very important and extremely narcissistic, who basically gets a dangerous cult surrounding him. And there's like another group of people who are insistent on building a wall between them and the zombies. Again, this is all pre-2016 too, and I'm just like,
why
the fuck is this is like my Cassandra comic. I'm like, do I keep going? Do I stop? Like, is this my crystal ball? Is this my
superpower, or is this a current?
I hate this, that this is my superpower. This sucks.
Fable, you need to start reading about good things happening now.
I can promise you that
write about social progress, please.
The ending that I have in mind is not how most zombie stories end, at least. But yeah, a lot of it is basically about kind of like examining what qualifies as human, and how we treat each other when we have mental differences and physical differences, and really like examining. It's like, okay, like, where is the line here? Like, when is it okay to be like, yeah, fuck that guy and let's get rid of them, versus like, you know, so often in zombie stories, it kind of becomes, especially recently, an excuse to just blast away like crowds, mobs of people, essentially. And it's very concerning.
Yeah, it's a power fantasy. Yeah,
it's a power fantasy. But my favorite zombie stories and like apocalypse stories are really just examinations of the now, because zombies are always supposed to mean something. And, you know, part of it was, forgive me if anybody's a fan of the series, part of it was my frustrations with the Walking Dead TV series and seeing how the characters were responding to the stress of the moment and kind of some of the assumptions of what happens if the law disappears. And I'm sitting there like, I mean, we have real world examples of that you could just refer to.
Right.
You know, there are worse things in a zombie apocalypse that have happened and still are happening to people right now. And you can see how they react to it. And I just wanted to approach the story from a more, I don't want to say optimistic, but it's like an actual like realistic point of view of human nature can be fucked up, but ultimately we really, really, really are like instinctually all about gluing together. Sometimes to our detriment, even.
We're very highly social creatures.
Yeah, it's
naturally drawn to each other.
Yeah, whatever libertarian power fantasy that some people would think that apocalyptic situation would be, that's not it. That's not what would happen, because humans just don't actually operate that way.
No.
And I wanted to examine that like core question of like, what does it mean to be human and how humans actually deal with like desperate situations? Like, how do they build society? How do they rebuild society? And challenging the status quo. What does that actually mean?
Right.
But yeah. So I'll
so
get
that's
back
what
to
you
it at some point.
That's what you've been working on.
Yeah, I mean that's
your side business of predicting the future, all the bad things.
I'm sorry, it's not my fault. It's not my fault.
You keep telling yourself that. Anyway,
I just examined historical trends. I was like, yeah, I think this would happen if, and then what do you know? It does, and I hate it. I hate being right.
It does repeat itself, so.
A lot of it is about like the power of empathy. Not in a Steven Universe way, but in the very real ways that we impact each other. And what that means. So yeah.
It's an interesting thing to look into. If I ever see you post anything about it on Twitter or whatever, I'll be sure to look into that.
I'm gonna latch my little teeth into it.
It's a little bit more enthusiastic, but yes.
Yeah, umbagogcomic.com. I'm sorry if that's hard to spell, but yeah,
If you wanted to drop it in the private chat, I'll drop it into the stream chat then for...
But yeah, I'm sorry that it's only on chapter 5 right now. I will get back to it. And there's lots of doodles and stuff that you could probably uncover from forever ago that I find highly embarrassing, honestly, because I'm like, I would change how I do that now. Change that. I envy you, Tracy. You basically get to rework your old work via this this cartoon. If you're like, that could be better, and then you can just actually tackle it now.
And then some.
I had to tell myself I'm not allowed to rewrite the first chapters. You have to just
that's the thing.
forward.
A lot of webcomic artists, the trap they fall into is just like, I'm gonna redo the first chapter like 8 times, and every time I get to the end of finishing the first chapter, I have to go back and start again because I don't like it anymore. And it's like you gotta just keep moving forward.
I like look at their faces. I'm just like embarrassed at how I drew them.
Art is never perfect. It never will be.
No.
And
I absolutely get it. I move so slowly that like my pages, the first pages of Placata are over a year old now, and I look at them and I cringe. But the thing is, nobody's interested in watching you redraw page 1. I promise. If you can't help but rework stuff, make it a treat. Make it something you reward yourself with. Say, you know what? If I finish chapter 5, if I get to 100 pages, then I can go back and rework chapter 1. But I cannot touch it. People want the new stuff. They don't want the old stuff.
Yeah.
And also, like, not to bring in another comic, but like sometimes it's really cool when you watch a comic become like what you recognize the artist style as being. Like for example, shout outs to the furries, Two Kinds. You look at the first chapter of that and you're like, golly, this is some MS Paint. And I don't mean that in a cruel way. I mean that in a loving way.
No, I get it. I get
it. Up. But then you look at like his work now and I'm like, Thomas, how did you do this, sir? And it's just, the improvement is crazy. So
it's inspirational.
You get to see the artist grow along with the story.
One of my favorite comics I've stumbled across recently that is like a great example of that, but I like the first page, honestly, as jank as it is. I kind of like it for that fact, and I like the last page. Nasty Red Dogs. If you want like a weird apocalypse story, that one's so surreal. Nasty Red Dogs. I very much enjoy it.
I think we figured out.
It goes in very weird places. I like it. I like it weird and upsetting.
Casually Googling it so that I
body
have it in my
horror. It's full of body horror and like really sensitive topics. It is genderqueer as fuck. Like really early on, you're gonna be like, I'm getting kind of trans vibes from this, and then they just affirm it, and you're like, knew it. So.
After my own heart.
Yeah, nasty. And also with the title like Nasty Red Dogs. So I think Nasty Red Dogs is like, one day the moon splits in half, and then all the dogs suddenly lose their skin and turn red and deform, and they can talk, and they are eating people. What the fuck is going on?
Oh yeah, I'm looking at some pictures of it right now. That is great nightmare fuel right there.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah,
that's for that comic too. I enjoy that one. Yeah, that's good.
Oy. Okay. So that's what Fable's been up to. And I think we all... Yep.
That you might want to like plug your shout.
Well, we have a Streamily signing for the Lackadaisy casting crew up next weekend on June 8th. I think we are starting at 2 p.m. PST. We'll be live on
posters for sale.
We'll be live on our Lackadaisy YouTube channel, signing posters, prints. I'll be signing books. And you can pick those up at streamily.com/Lackadaisy if you're.
I believe they come with frames even if you pay extra. I think.
Yeah, I think you can get them framed. Yeah.
If you're
interested in that.
So it's a nice service. It's a service that like a lot of different people have been using. A lot of VAs. So it's a way for VAs to like make an extra buck off of their performances, basically. And you can get some really cool art by artists that they commission. and they'll often like split profits.
It's
so,
the VAs get a little extra payday that way. The artists who worked with them get paid that way, and anything I earn is going right into the Lackadaisy production. So
yes, that's partially our goal in even doing this. It's like we want to make more cartoons, especially we would love to make. We would love to make like more shorts and stuff because people really like stratagem. They like breakthrough.
Right.
And we would love to do that kind of thing more. So you can support us that way. Go ahead, Tracy.
Yeah. Full length episodes take a long time to make, as you might imagine. And so in between that, we like to have smaller things that we can share, and we're trying to do.
Keeps our crew
sell
fed
this
also,
stuff to help. Yeah, it keeps the crew busy and paid, and keeps fans fed. So with content. So that's
support the media you enjoy. It's more important now than ever.
Like find some indie cartoons you like and throw some money their way, or even just your viewership, or share the link.
Share it with your friends.
It's not going to someone's third yacht. It's feeding creators and making what you're enjoying most possible.
Yeah, most of us are only dreaming of a middle class living.
It's
like,
I mean, honestly, we just want to make our cartoon, and we just need to be able to eat and buy enough internet, to
keep making
I need to stay on my Stratera, man. I need to make money.
Right. And we need to, not die from, diseases and things.
Yeah.
Whatever disease Fable decides to conquer this time.
Yeah.
My cat needs food. He meows so much for me.
I know. I've been hearing.
He's like, Father, I would love to have a snack.
Yeah.
So I think that is where we can end the stream and the Q&A and everything else. Again, Tracy, Fable, Spike, I'd like to thank each of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to stop by, answer a few questions, and vibe, I guess. Just chillax.
I love vibing.
Hang out. And
apologies for being late, but I'm glad I made it.
It's fine.
How dare you?
Better late than never.
Yeah. They said with love, not actually being mad.
Thank you for having us. It was it was very delightful to chat.
It would be funny though, Spike, if you had appeared in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, with my ghost avatar.
Hey guys, what time was this supposed to start?
I was told this was
a meeting. I wasn't co-hosting, probably would have been me.
Another thing to plug. You should plug the podcast that you do, Spike, because you're doing a lot of stuff.
If you go to the Iron Circus Comics YouTube, which is conveniently just Iron Circus Comics, you will find a podcast I do every week called The Geek Show. It is a live draw where I am drawing Lacada, and Iron Circus Comics managing editor Cal McDonald is drawing their comic. And we shoot the shit. We talk about sort of things that have happened recently. We talk about the comics business. We talk about animation, and we just sort of talk about whatever has come up that week. And I mean, it's pretty obvious what we probably talked about this week, but there's a lot of variation. And if you like to see, if you like to put something on in the background while you do your weekly clean, the Geek Show is a great possibility. A great, So yeah, go watch the Geek Show on the Iron Circus Comics YouTube channel.
Yep. Awesome. So with everyone that's here, check out all the socials for Tracy, Fable, Spike, everybody else in between. Check out Lacadaisy. It's an amazing freaking show, and that's putting it lightly, to say the least.
Thank you. That's so kind.
And I can't wait to see what more is in store for this speakeasy in St. Louis.
After the recording. After the recording session, I'm like, oh, I can't wait for people to hear this. They're gonna cry.
I can't wait. Rip my little heart out.
Yes. Yeah, feel bad for him. Yeah.
It's no fun having characters unless you can kick them down the stairs sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. My favorite thing is just slap them around, throw them in the mud.
My toy house is filled with tortured souls. Bless them.
Oh my god, my Sims house. Me and my sister would always just make torture families where it's like, we'll just lock them in a room and see what happens.
Put them in the pool, delete the ladder.
Is this our
I might be a little fucked up.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I might be just a little No, leaving them to drown in the pool is too easy. What you need to do is make a tower of pain where the only toilet is at the very top.
Ooh,
I hate that I've unironically done that exact thing.
Fable, you and Nevaeh are like
we have
on
a
the
lot
same
of
wavelength.
Yeah.
Look, when you're trans, you gotta cope somehow.
It's true.
So true. And it's by torturing your Sims and your OCs.
It's
Why do you
true.
think there's so much queer on AO3?
Oh, brother.
There's a reason.
All right. I think that's where we can end the stream. Now, again, I'd like to thank everybody in chat for stopping by with your questions and everything. It's very nice to see the reception for Lackadaisy in force, and we'd like to keep this whole thing going as long as we can. But gotta kind of put a stop to it now, and because if we don't, Lackadaisy doesn't come out because I've got them tied up here. So
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
yep, thanks for everyone stopping by, and we'll catch you later, I guess.
All right.
Go.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.